Is the journey ending or beginning? Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. Actually here on the namesake of the podcast. I am your host, Craftsdwarf, and this is my co-host, Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
So this feels like an appropriate time to mention. I'm quitting the podcast. We're ending it. It's over. I mean, now that we're covering, like, we can't cover Hunter x Hunter. We've gone so long without doing it. Like, we can't. Like, something's got to go wrong.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for listening to the podcast these 2 years. Bye. Anyway, okay. Let's get into the real actual discussion. Well, first, so we do have an announcement. Because especially, I think when we started Yu Yu Hakusho a couple months ago, there were a lot of comments like, or maybe when it ended Fairy Tail, there were a lot of comments like, oh, you should read the Black Clover, you should read the My Hero Academias, and I'm like, okay, we already have things planned for like the next 10 series, but okay. But then I had an idea, mostly because like this is quite a bit of time to actually do between the reading, the recording, which tires me out because, as you know, I get excited. like on the days that I would record and then edit, when we had like, now we have like a bit of a buffer. Like this episode is not coming out until like a week after after it's recorded. Before it used to be like we'd record an episode and then I'd edit it and then it would go up the next day, which was kind of rough because like we'd record it and I'd be tired until like after dinner, and then I'd have enough energy to actually start editing. Like by the end of, it can be rough. So I guess if you would like to just support us, because we've been producing content for a while now, or if you would like to have an influence in what we read, we are opening a Patreon exclusively for the Nen Show. It will be linked in the description. If you care to support us, right now it's only $1. It might be split into multiple tiers, $1 per episode. So that does not include the Nen Show podcast. That's just something we do for fun, because it was an idea. Let's talk about Hokuto Precure, and now it's becoming a thing, and then it became a thing. It's not like consistent. It's just sort of happening as it goes. So that's not included, obviously, and nothing else in the side Mathwiz's side channel, obviously. So it's just for episodes of the Nen Show. So it's about 2 episodes a month. So if you want to donate $1, or what I think you can change your pledge. I don't know if most people just do the tiers. And if there is a lot of interest, we might split it up so that it will be like $3 an episode, or maybe I don't know how much interest we're expecting. But the idea is that right now for the only tier, you can send us so basically once we do it. So in case you're coming in for the first time, the Nen Show is divided into blocks. This is only our second block. Most blocks will actually just be 2 series, but we started on 2 exceptions. So the first block we did was the big 3, Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. And the second block we did was Heaven and Hell, where we went through Mashima's main works and then now Togashi's 2 main works. So a block of 3 and a block of 4. But next time we're doing the old school block. But between then, we were already going to do an episode of Boruto, because in between blocks we catch up to ongoing series. So right now those ongoing series are Naruto through Boruto, One Piece, Wano arc is ongoing, Fairy Tail, we're not going to read Century Quest until it's over, but I guess we will.
Oh
no! I don't make the rules. Well, actually, yes I did. Sorry.
Craftsdwarf's just like, you just want to read more Fairy Tail. You want to make me read more Fairy Tail. Don't try to hide it. You make the rules specifically to cater to Fairy Tail. I see how it is.
Anyway, and then also the Succession, when we finish Hunter x Hunter, the Succession War arc will be an ongoing arc. Sadly, we're probably not going to read anything past what the anime has been adapted, but we'll get to that later when we talk about spoilers, or like the idea of spoilers. So anyway, those are ongoing series. So I'm pretty sure, except for Boruto, we're going to have nothing else to read after Hunter x Hunter, and obviously Fairy Tail and Hunter x Hunter. We don't count things that were part of the last block, so we wouldn't begin to read Century Quest or the Succession War until after the old school block, for example. But what we're adding to those middle blocks will be reader suggestions. So basically the idea is that if you're a patron, or you'll be able to suggest something, and then we'll compile all the suggestions, and then people will be able to vote on the suggestions. My current idea is that you'll be able to vote on multiple. So if say that there's 3 choices, Eden Zero, I don't know why my mind jumped to Mashma first. My Hero Academia and Black Clover, like, you could vote for just one of them, you could vote for 2 of them, you could vote for all 3. And so the idea is that, like, the one that gets picked is the one that everyone is, like, okay with, or once, like, if you're like, oh, I'll listen to a My Hero Academia and Black Clover discussion, but Eden Zero, not so. So yeah, then you could vote for just those 2. That's what I hope. I don't know. That should be an option. I might have to link. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Or
you can vote for all 3 and basically vote for none of them.
Exactly. I have no idea. So the list, it is linked on the Patreon page of all the Shounen. You can please just message if you want to get into contact with us specifically. Like, we can't really like go like Twitter, Discord, YouTube comments. We can't really really organize everything. If you try and get it. So if you want to talk to us specifically about like your Patreon like suggestion or even just like the list, because the list is going to be it's like I said, it's linked. It's got all the series. If you want to submit a correction or another series to be added to the list, just because Patreon has a messaging system, so you can just message the Nen Show Podcast, and one of us will check it. Probably be one of us will check it out. So that's the idea. So I don't know, Mathwiz. Yeah, like, because I feel like My Hero Academia, it's really popular. It's got an anime going right now. I don't know if I want to discuss it because like I just caught up, so it's pretty. Parts of it are fresh. I don't know. Maybe I'll be surprised, like, I mentioned Black Hero and Eden Zero. Full Metal Alchemist is popular. Dragon Ball. I don't know. Do you have any expectations?
I'll wait to be surprised.
All right, yeah, and that's kind of the idea. Is like the word, just see what happens. they make us reread Fairy Tail. No, they're not. Okay, that
this
evil.
time I'm really quitting the podcast.
So yeah, please support us. Give us your money. And we'll keep making the podcast. Of course, it's obviously still going to be free to listen. Even the episodes that are voted for, like the series that are voted. So yeah, that's our current. So in case you're wondering what our next schedule, like the schedule is, we're going to finish Hunter x Hunter. Then we're going to do the first patron voted series. Then we'll do an episode of Boruto, and then we'll finally be in the old school block, which will be series starting 1979 or before. So that's it. All right. Nen Show update complete. This time we're talking about Hunter x Hunter. So as usual, we're going to talk our personal histories with the series and what spoilers to expect going forward. So I have the shorter personal history, and I know we've already been talking for quite a while, but I'm just going to go first because I read the series in 2015, 26, I think it was 2015. Yeah. I read it. I liked it a lot. I think I had it as a favorite. Then I watched the anime in 2017, I think, and it was one of the most bingeable experiences I've had because I was like, I should be working on videos, or I could watch another 20 episodes of Hunter x Hunter. So yeah, that happened. So I don't know if it will be a favorite after rereading it, but mostly the reason that I don't have it as a favorite is because like I don't think about it a lot. Maybe it's because I'm not in communities that discuss it a lot. I don't know. Maybe I have no idea what I'm gonna feel. I like this stretch, the Hunter exam. The part that people say isn't as good or it's not. Mathwiz has a whole video.
Fairy Tale greater than Hunter x Hunter. Quote Craftsdwarf right here live on the podcast.
No. Anyway, you had a whole video defending the early greatness of Hunter x Hunter, right? I'm not misremembering.
Yeah. So yeah, I've made videos on Hunter x Hunter. Some of them exist. I think all the videos I've made exist, but like some of them are good, some parts of them probably don't hold up. I don't know.
I know you've approached the Sasuke Kurapika topic a couple times.
Oh, that's going to be interesting. How many different ways are we gonna pronounce Kurapika's name over the course of this podcast?
Oh God, you're right. Kurapika? Pikachu? I don't know where that came. Anyway, so yeah, go into your personal, because you have it's your favorite anime of all time. So go in.
So yes, I first watched the 2011 anime. It was my entry point. That was back in 2014. It was like between 2014 and 2015. I watched it over the course of like a year-ish. And yeah, that's been like my benchmark ever since. Like it was the greatest anime I watched then. I still feel as though it's the greatest anime I've seen. Have not read the manga yet though, but I mean, like, I've gone through the anime like twice. I've seen the 1999 adaptation. I don't know. Like, I've made videos on it. I have more video ideas about it. Some of the things I'll bring up in this podcast are probably going to be taken like straight from scripts that could have been, but I didn't end up writing, or just like notes I had for him, which is something I only just realized like as I was doing the reading. I was like, oh, I remember this one fight. Like, I had ideas that that didn't become a full script. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm pretty biased when it comes to Hunter x Hunter. So like, even though we read One Piece, and I was like, well, maybe One Piece is as good. Maybe One Piece is as good, if not better, than Hunter x Hunter. But I don't know. So what we'll see. But yeah, it's
Nen
a very
Show
good series.
Civil War, One Piece versus Hunter x Hunter. Like, we didn't have it over Fairy Tail versus Fairy Tail.
And I definitely think, like, as far as like my stance on not stance, but like where I stand, because like there's a very clear like community of people who like to talk about Hunter x Hunter, as well as just like the general more like YouTube video essay like sort of perception that like, oh, Hunter x Hunter is the greatest thing, it's so revolutionary, da 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 da.
It's a deconstruction. And so, like, I'm 100% gonna meme on the deconstruction idea. Anyway, sorry.
And I feel like, well, like, how that ties into my history is I feel as though I was definitely in that camp for a period of time where I was like,
oh, that's right.
You know, maybe I didn't think it was a deconstruction. Well, actually, yes, there was like the one iPad 12 video, his very first Hunter x Hunter video, and I was like the top comment, and I was like, oh yeah, it's deconstruction, it's all this stuff. But then when I actually started making videos, I still think there was a degree to which maybe I like overemphasized how good the series is or whatever. But I still also think it's really good. So as I kind of am just with Shounen in general, where I'm in the position of like, oh, things are good, you know, they might not be like revolutionary, but they're still good. And even when people, I don't know, Hunter x Hunter is kind of one of those things where some people could say it's overhyped, and I disagree, but I also like understand. And I feel like I did to a degree play into that in the past.
Like,
so we'll see.
It's always tricky kind of being not even in the middle, but have it just not being as extreme, because Hunter x Hunter is a great series. It's not my favorite thing ever, but like, so I understand the people who like, they see it's a deconstruction, it's a masterpiece, it's better than every other shonen at being shonen. It's a seinen and shonen clothing. It's an accidental shonen, like, whatever.
Yeah. Well, and it's like tricky for me because like at the end of the day, it's my favorite anime of all time. So like, even if I say like maybe it's overhyped, I still do feel as though it's the best shonen I've seen.
Right, you do have these really strong feelings about it, so you don't want to be lumped with the people who like throw everything under the bus to get up to praise Hunter x Hunter, even though it doesn't need it, like, because it is good. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that gets more at the heart of it. Like, I'm just less of a fan of throwing other shonen under the bus because to make Hunter x Hunter seem better.
Right.
Whereas, like, I like other shonen, and I also just like Hunter x Hunter more.
Because Hunter x Hunter, it 100% feeds into, like, because I think I mentioned it on Yu Yu Hakusho too, where we're just like, the shonen that people like are the ones with like decent to good anime adaptations, and that rule is continuing. Like, I think I dropped Kimetsu no Yaiba like 17 chapters in. Like, it was, I don't know, I didn't care for it, and then I turn around and the anime goes, and suddenly it's like, it's literally, I think it's going to have more sales this year than One Piece, which hasn't happened since 2006, which is, so that's pretty insane, and so I'm just like, what the fuck happened? So, I'm sure it's a fine series, but am I gonna read it and say this is the best manga? Probably not. But that doesn't mean it's not good. My Academia, Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter, like, these are all series that, like, but then you go to YouTube and you see the refining the shonen formula, deconstructing shonen, all that kind of, it's tiring. I'm tired. Shonen was always good. Everyone is just cowards. Anyway, to speak on analysis, I do have a video, because I thought it was kind of interesting how the 2011 adaptation handled Trick Tower, and that sort of evolved into a video. I don't know if that one holds up. I haven't watched it in a while. But I will say regarding analysis is that, like, outside of, like, my content and maybe whatever remember of Mathwiz's, I'm probably not going to view analysis of Hunter x Hunter until, like if you want to, like, even mention, videos like, because, like, specifically ones arc related, like, if we're talking about, the Zoldyck family, then maybe mention Alexander's Zoldyck family video. You know, even though, like, obviously, we'll get to spoilers in a second. But I'm not going to go out of my way to watch or read anything until I finish it, because I kind of want it to be my thoughts, even though, like, I do know of some great, like, Alexander's, obviously, apparently done 27 Hunter x Hunter videos, like, in the course of his channel's lifetime, which is nuts. You know, even though I do feel like some of them, like the Shy Poof video kind of overwrites the Royal Guards one, which I didn't care for. The Shy Poof one is good, I mean. The old one, his content's, you know, grown, definitely, for sure, and evolved, and for the better, I think. But anyway, there's also a blog that analyzes Nen abilities that I read a little bit of one post, and I thought, this is interesting, and I kind of never touched it again. But there's good Hunter x Hunter, like, that's I think what made me sad about One Piece, because, like, comparatively, I don't think there's as much good stuff with One Piece as there is with Hunter x Hunter analysis, so that's why I had to do that. So, I don't, and at the end of the day, I don't know if I'm going to have a lot to say about Hunter x Hunter, because, you know, a lot is already being said. I might have some video ideas, and I did do the one, but, I don't know. It's a good series. So maybe we should have talked about this. So I guess, are we about done with our personal histories with Hunter x Hunter?
Yeah.
Okay, so about spoilers, I think it's fair to say that, like, I mean, we've already spoiled Hunter x Hunter several times throughout the podcast. So I think I'm just going to say, and there's actually a couple things I want to talk about from later, or at least I could talk about from later. So I think I'm just going to say, if you have not watched up to the end of the anime or the chairman election arc in the manga, if we're going to be spoiling up to that point, basically. So we have both read beyond that to the manga, but we're not going to talk about that. So I think, I mean, you know, mostly we're going to just be talking about this arc. But yeah, just for warning, and we might also occasionally bring up spoilers from other things we've read, or, you know, like I said, Big Three, Yu Yu Hakusho, and Hiro Mashima. If the comparison, I can't think of anything right now, but so yeah, that seems fair, right?
Yeah.
And yes, we don't respond to comments on the first episode, but, you know, feel free to leave them, and we will talk about your comments next time, for this episode. So anyway, on to the actual discussion. You know, almost 20 minutes in, which is actually pretty normal, because it usually takes that long to talk about comments. So, starting off, we get a whole little introduction of the world, and hunters, and Gon. He's fishing.
So, okay, I guess we kind of... So, like, part of my plan with like, this podcast is that, like, and I've talked to Craftsdwarf about this, like, once we're done, like, I've been kind of waiting until we covered it on the Nen Show to do my... Like, I want to do, like, a comparison series between the two anime adaptations. So, I probably won't do many, like, here's how one anime did it. Here's how, you know, like, I probably won't... I'll try not to talk about the anime unless I feel like it's super relevant. But obviously, like, this first chapter is something that the 2011 anime partially adapts. Like, it cuts out all the stuff with Kite, which is... Right. Interesting in how it, like, it semi-recontextualizes like the way things go from here, which is, I don't know, it's interesting. They don't have the bear, they don't have Gon's bear friend Kon. He's not in the anime, and that's a problem. I have a problem with that, because for hunters, all hunters are good with animals, but if there's no animal in the first episode, you don't fucking show that. So 0 out of 10. Hunter x Hunter, the worst anime I've ever seen. Right.
And yeah, not interesting. Kite, like, because he's a pretty big influence to, you know, Gon and his perspective, and he, you know, he gives him the hunter license, and then in the anime it's like, oh yeah, Greed Island ends. Oh, there was this guy Gon met with. This is totally something that happened. And it's so weird that they did that. Like, because even if they didn't want to do it at the moment. Like, maybe they did recap episodes, so why not find an excuse to flash back to Kite? Like, One Piece did that with Zoro's backstory, where they kind of skimmed over it during the Romance Dawn arc, but then, like, episode 18 was like, or no, was it? Yeah, a later episode, like, after Syrup Village, Usopp and Kuro, was a whole Zoro backstory episode, you know, and they, even with chapter 1 being a Luffy flashback, that was episode 4 of the anime, so they did... So they did it retroactively, but not like 70 episodes into the series.
Yeah.
So it's just a weird decision, and I'm not so sure.
That would have been a cool comparison to make if I had read One Piece when I made that video on that.
The One Piece, of course, has its own thing where they don't adapt the cover stories, but that's whatever. But yeah, you're right. They got the hunters are good with animals, like you said.
What I think is kind of like the way that Togashi draws Gon in like these first couple of chapters, it almost, I mean, like, I don't know, it's just like the way he draws his hair in particular. Like sometimes he'll have like the little I don't know if I'd call them bangs, but he has like the little ends that kind of stick out like in front of his face, which like he doesn't have in either anime adaptation. So I just think it's like interesting whenever we see like the side shots of him, and I don't know, it's not that like his hair is any more detailed because he has that. It's just like, I don't know. It's just different to how I've seen Gon like in anything else. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just maybe he's easier to animate without those kind of thing. I don't know. That's a good. I haven't noticed. I've only seen the anime once, and like one episode of the 99.
But then it's also something like I think after a certain point he kind of stopped drawing those. I don't know. Maybe it'll come back later.
Okay.
It's a really minor thing.
That I didn't notice at all. But yeah, there's a mention of like, Gon, because he wants to find his dad and stuff, and I think, and it's I think blood tells or something. I think both Kite says that, and I think Mito says something about like, oh, you're just like your dad. But yeah, good first chapter. I didn't have, because I maybe I didn't even get the chance to just summarize what happens, which is fine. Like I'd expect people would know it, but Gon catches the fish to go because he wants to go take the hunter exam. He gets the flashback with Kite killing the fox bear and saving Gon. There is a good moment, especially a good moment where Kite says he's going to put down kid or the young fox bear because he thinks that it will hold a grudge against humans, but Gon they're untamable. And then Gon he takes the claw, he to let it get out some of its anger, and ends up he's got a big old fox boy friend.
And it's cool because he's like, hey, we need to go our separate ways because hunters do some bad things, and because you're the king of the forest, you can't be friends with a hunter. And then he comes back with all the creatures of the forest, and it's like, oh.
Yep. And Mito is definitely a character we'll talk about later, when we get more about her. But for now, she's, she raised Gon, and she doesn't want him to go. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the most interesting part of this first chapter was the way that it's like the interaction right before he leaves, where because initially she's like, your father left you with me when you were still a baby, and she's like looking away, and then she comes back later and she's like, I lied, actually I made him give you up, but like and then he says like, yeah, I kind of figured that because you never look me in the eye when you're lying to me. But then like when she said the second thing, like when she said that she made him give Gon up, she's also not looking him in the eye. So like I'd assume that she's lying there, and my assumption was that like she said that to like make I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
She's also like,
because like we know
crying in that panel, so it's like I do remember there's more to it later. Like I said, when Mito comes up again, and I always forget the exact details for some reason.
Well, and it's also like it's another one of those things where like, again, I don't want to talk about the anime too much, but like the anime has colored my perception as to how these events happen, and this is different to how things happened. I think the 1999 anime kind of goes into its own, like, it goes a lot further with it. Whereas, like, the 2011 anime, it's a totally different, it's a lot more, like, sunshine, happy, like, yes, there's a sad undercurrent to it, but it's like, let's just get to the main stuff.
2011 cuts it out completely, and 99 I did remember one scene they add where Mito almost destroys the box that comes up before Greed Island, after Heaven's Arena. And there's, like, Mito's about to destroy it, or try, like, But so that wasn't just in the first episode, and you're like, oh, what's going on there? But it's actually a thing that happens later, which is cool. So stuff like that, yeah, they expand on it, and I remember you've said some thoughts on like how some of the additions, changed Gon's character, which is, I guess, something you talk about in your comparison series. So, but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how they were adapted differently. Did you have more to say on the first chapter, or shall we move on?
No, that's pretty much it for the first chapter.
We gotta get to more of the boys.
Yeah. See, because, like, I'm also not sure how much... Because, like, some of this stuff are things that I have said before. Like, I did make a whole first episode on... I made a whole video on, like, the kite stuff. So it's like, do I want to rehash that here? Or can I, like, partially... Like, I don't know what all I should... So that might also be a bit of a...
I mean, if you want to,
a thing
that's
I'll have
fine.
to figure out over this.
Like, I don't mind having more to say.
Let's just put the podcast on hold and we'll play my video here, and then we'll resume.
Maybe I'll play, like, the first couple seconds just to make people think that. No. But anyway, so yeah, they, off to the Hunter exam, they get a bunch of little tests, which are neat. Like, on the ship where... only the 3 actual main characters are, they adapt pretty quickly.
And it immediately, like, sets this tone, because they're layers to the Hunter exam, and that's what I think is really cool, because part of it is about, like, seeing through deception and proving your worth, etc., etc., and so, like, even just the trip, like, the boat that's going to get them to the island, that's going to get them to the stop, that gets them to the exam, that gets, like... Even from, like, the very beginning, it's like, okay, we're testing you, and we're seeing what you're worth, and so, like, all these guys, they're useless, and they all die, and they leave on raft boats because they're useless.
If you can't, spooky storm, they're not hunter material. Right. And, of course, the ones who stand out are Leorio and Karapika, who look weird in the first couple chapters they appear in until... I guess Togashi figures out exactly how wants to draw them. It's always weird opening the volume and seeing, like, Lorio's cackle of how he wants money and stuff, and it's just like, that's not Leorio. This is not an image you use to represent him. But it was in the first chapter it appeared, so, and the art looks a little weird for him in the, so, stuff like that, little stuff like that. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, it's kind of similar to what I was saying with Gon. Like, not that he looked off or anything, but it's just like, it's just different.
We talked about how this always happens with every long-running series, is if you compare the art at the beginning and the end, you're always going to see, like...
Yeah, like when you had talked about that with One Piece, where you're like, these characters look weird in the first few chapters.
You're like, what? They look fine to me. And then, then you look back after, like, 500 chapters or so, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, there was, in the arguments between Karapika and Leorio, I liked one line where Karapika said, "Don't be as stupid as you look." And I like that line because normally it's like, oh, you're not as stupid as you look, but he's calling him stupid and, like, saying he looks stupid. It was like, I really do like the translation. Like, this might be one of the best Viz translations we've had. Because I'm pretty sure, I don't seem to, like, I'm not seeing, oh wow, there's a little bit of thing that was lost. No, it seems pretty fine translation-wise. I don't know, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. I know one of the things specifically was, like, culturally or whatever, like, I remember, like, the thing where, like in the manga, Kurapika is, like, messing up Leorio's name. So it's, like, Riolio or something. Whereas, like... I'd imagine the original joke, as it was in, the anime, was like Leorio-san, because he wants to be all official.
Maybe.
Or,
proper.
I don't remember like, respect
that from the
me.
Anime adaptations.
Yeah,
but that seems like it makes
maybe
sense.
It was different in the...
That's another thing. It's kind of weird how, like, especially like at the 2011 adaptation, because I don't remember half of the humor, especially with, like, Hanzo, and, the one that you tweeted about, because holy shit, that was so good. I don't remember. So it's like they cut back on the humor, but they also made some weird, like, censorship choices to make it less dark. So where the manga is both darker and lighter. I feel maybe I'm again not remembering early 2011 super well, but
Well, yeah, because even the 99 adaptation, which is, some would say, it starts off dark. Or, I think most people who had seen it would say it starts off darker. Even then, like, there's just, like, TV censorship things. Like, the manga will obviously be more graphic than the anime, because I guess just different guidelines for what you can and can't do.
Which we've talked about, like,
different target audiences
I love
or whatever.
the examples of fucking Jotaro from Stardust Crusaders there, where half of his face is covered in black shadow because they can't show 17-year-olds smoking on television. Oh god, it's yeah, TV is weird. But anyway, I also like how like Karapika and Leorio are about to fight, and the captain's like, hey, and Gon's like, just let him fight, because he like recognizes that sometimes, there's good things to come out of conflict, and sure enough, they actually, like, fight. Like, he's not like, oh, just have peace, like, compromise through conflict, you could say. And of course, I do like how it shapes out where, he just, like, goes, and they're good, so they save him. They're, like, scolding him, like, what, you could have fallen into the ocean. And he's like, but you guys saved me. Innocent child. He's a good boy. I made a joke about how this podcast would be 5 hours long, and everyone believed me on my Discord server and to Mathwiz. Well, Mathwiz was like, how? And I'm like, it was over exaggeration.
Well, I mean, we are 30 minutes in, and we've only covered 2 chapters.
And a lot of, like, Patreon announcements and spoiler, and so it's.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I'd say 10 minutes for 10 to 15 for the 2 chapters. It'll go quicker once we get to the actual, like, arcs, because this might be my favorite part of the, like, the really early stuff. No, but the stuff with the shapeshifters is good too. But the multiple choice question, or the 2 choice quiz, because they get their tip and they head over to the tree and they get the quiz.
And they got the guy who stalks him, but then he goes first to answer the question, and then obviously that's part of the trick is, you give an answer and that's not the right answer, because the right answer is no answer.
Well, I like it because, like, all the characters, they have their perfectly them reactions, but also, like, all the reactions are correct. Like, they're like Leorio's, like, he's being emotive, and he's you have to take some kind of action eventually, so even if it would have lost him the test, like, that's a good mindset to have in general, like, because as Kurapika points out, is there look outside of the rules, they're like, it's supposed to be, it says 2 choice quiz, and yet you can not answer. That's a third choice. Not making a choice isn't itself a choice. And then Gon is actually thinking about, like, well, what is the like, what would I choose if I had, like, he's trying to come to an actual answer, and of course in this case it doesn't matter, but, like, I especially like the comparison later with Trick Tower, where they have a similar sort of, like, 2 choice problem, and they take action and they think outside the box and come to the actual answer. Where they take the long path but break the wall so that they could take the short path. And that's another thing I like about these, because they're not only tests, but it's also, like, training in a sense. Like, it's like, if you pass it, because later on, like, that was a good example of, like, something they had to deal with specifically later. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I remember a while back I had made a tweet. I was like, oh, I feel it. This feels like foreshadowing. Like, Gon saying, like, well, what if I have to make that choice one day? And, like, obviously that's probably reading too much into it. Like, I don't know. Maybe it'll become a thing, but I doubt it's, like, Togashi foreshadowing.
That would be, like, a very epilogue kind of foreshadowing, where, because it's, like, the question was, son or daughter has been kidnapped, so that would be Gon, like, a big boy, family man.
This is where we find out it really is a deconstruction, because we get the obligatory Shounen pro tags gotta have kids, but then actually the kid dies because
Gon only saved one of them. He made a oh no. I don't know. That would be interesting to see that come back, but Togashi would have to end the series first, or end the progress. So we've talked about this a lot. I mean, the dude went back. Like, this is like what 4 years after Yu Yu Hakusho ended, after doing like a year of a monthly series in between. Like, the dude is still going. Like, got writing the mangas. So yeah, good on him. Even if it didn't last, sadly, at least consistently. But anyway, now we got the Kirikos, which is another fun one. Say your things to say if you have any.
Okay, so yeah, this might be, well, I don't know. Like, all the out of the pre-exam stuff, this might be my favorite little scenario. I don't know. It's all good. But, like, this is good because all the characters pass for different reasons, and it goes to show, like, the nuances of being a hunter, because, like, not every hunter is the same. You know, Leorio passes. You know, he didn't figure out the deception, but like his honesty and his adeptness at medical stuff, that was good enough for him to pass. Whereas like with Gon, he didn't figure out the deception again, but because he just had like incredible speed and
he was able to tell you know, there's more of the you know, compassion to animals, where he's like, you're not the same one. Like, he's recognizing them as different. And it gets a laugh out of him because he's like, hey guys, check this kid out. Like, he's bringing his family over to, this human told us apart. Which is, and of course that just like dissolves all of the tension in a good way, because, you know, they were never actually, you know, antagonistic. Well, it was a test. And yeah, Kurapika was very, you know, insightful. The character with the special eyes has the good insight. But no, yeah, it's good stuff, and it's also subversion. It subverts your expectations. But that's just good setup and payoff. All right, we're getting faster now that we're getting through. But anyway, there's after they get to the actual, you know, exam site, Gon actually gets like, so what do you get for beating the hunter exam? And they're just, and Leorio and Kurapika like, what?
Yeah. Oh, also, we did kind of breeze through the Kiriko part, but one other thing that I really liked was like the deception with Leorio, where it's like the one impersonates Leorio, but it's like, oh, when did you figure out that it was a disguise? And Kurapika's like, no, you just left a defenseless man alone, like an idiot. So it's like, it wasn't a moment of intellect there. It's just kind of, I don't know. Good. It's just, it's not even really like a gag. Like, it's, I don't know. It's just an interesting little character.
He was
thing,
like, Leorio, you fuck, and then he hit him, but it wasn't Leorio. So, and I just realized Yu Yu Hakusho comparison is like, because Leorio's the Kuwabara similar one of, you know, normalish human guy who doesn't get any screen time. There, I said it. But because Kuwabara was also shapeshifted into during Chapter Black, which I just remembered, though it was Yusuke who ended up hitting the shapeshifter, not
Oh, that's right. And it was another one of those not really like smart, like intellect. It was just like a pure chance thing, because Yusuke's like, oh, I've punched Kuwabara how many times
that's
or
one
whatever.
thing I kind of noted. It thought was, so I think there was another thing like that where, because like obviously design wise, you know, the main characters of Hunter x Hunter evoke some similarities to the Yu Yu Hakusho characters, or at least you know, Gon and Yusuke are both kids. They're probably some of the more different ones. Like Hiei and Killua are the edgy slash soft in varying orders. You know, Kuwabara and Leorio are older looking and bigger, and Kurapika and Kurama are both feminine looking. So it's like, you know, he iterated on the designs, but then you also have like cross similarities, like you mentioned. Killua, you did the tweet where Killua is adopting Yusuke's mischievous cat face. And yeah, that's the Hiei character adopting Yusuke traits. And now, like, here we have a Kurapika, you know, the Kurama character adopting a Yusuke trait. Or a incident, so to speak. So I think I might have noticed other ones like that, but it's so it's not like 1-to-1. Obviously, they're the same character. You know, they're evoking the Yu Yu Hakusho characters, but you know, he's reusing some stuff in some ways, just in new context, which is neat. I guess that was also a test in Chapter Black, huh? Now I think about it. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting.
You're right, and it was like the prelude
Yeah.
to bigger things, whereas this was like part of the exam,
Right.
but like
Though
it's
in this
the
case, like we know
pre-exam
what's
exam.
coming. Where in Chapter Black, it was a mystery. Like we thought these guys were, these are the bad guys, but no, this is the prelude to the bad guys, and that was revealed after the fact. So different setup. But yeah, I didn't think about how similar there was. I did have the Kuwabara thought, but there's more. There was more to it than I even realized.
What I think is also kind of interesting, I guess as far as like this arc in general goes, is like normally the shonen battle stories we've covered, they start with like the little episodic sort of installments, things that wrap up relatively quickly, and then they jump right into the big arc. But here it almost like the earlier little segmented parts, they're not really like self-contained mini arcs. They are part of the Hunter exam. So it's like Togashi just jumps right in
with it because it is the episodic mini arcs, but it's also a bigger arc. I hadn't thought. That's right. That's interesting. Because that's very Togashi. Because I talked about last time how he very much like plays with the things that you have, like almost the systemic things that happen because of Jump. Like he started Yu Yu Hakusho like a non-battle series that became a battle series. He ended it as if it were canceled when he got to choose when it ended. And then with Hunter x Hunter, there's the moment at the end of the anime where it like seems like it could have ended, but then it keeps going. Like these are all things that happen because of just how Jump runs. You know, like a series. It could end here, but no, the Death Note. You know, the Jump wants it to keep going, so it keeps going. Series getting canceled. That's because of Jump. Series having to start one way and then having to go a different way because the audience didn't care for the other way. That's just, that's like, I'm actually, like I said last time, I don't actually know of any series that started that way except for Maho Sensei Negima, which was after Yu Yu Hakusho, so I'm kind of curious as to what, like, what happened before Yu Yu Hakusho, because I've heard that as a trend. I literally know two series, and one of them, the older one did it deliberately, so, I don't know, so, this is, I guess, another instance, I hadn't thought about that, of Togashi playing with how Jump works, though this one is interesting, because it's not just, like, him doing it, but I feel like it's just being done in a more interesting way, instead of just, like, well, maybe I'll say something different about Hunter x Hunter later, where, like, yeah, with Yu Yu Hakusho, especially the ending, like, it just ends in a weird way. Like, I don't know if it makes it better, so to speak, for it. So, no, that's a good observation. I hadn't thought about that.
Here's another small little detail that I'm gonna obsess over because again, it's like a thing I'm used to not seeing. Well, maybe the 99 anime did it, but like in the 2011 anime, they don't actually like have steak. Like, that's just sort of the code, and Gon's like, oh, I didn't get to eat steak. But here in the manga, he gets to eat his steak, so there's plot thread closed.
We need to start a campaign, feed our boys, give them the steak. Give them the steak. But yeah, and it's also good, I like how, during the explanation, obviously, they talk about what appeals to them, like, Leorio talks about the money, and, like, they even have the bit where being hunter is the most lucrative, noble career there is, and then, like, glare at each other.
It's like it's a clever way to just deliver the exposition, because you turn the page and it's like a big text dump, but it's also indicative of it's again like fleshing out what motivates Kurapika and Leorio, and sort of like what they're, so it's like characterization through exposition. But the characters are delivering the exposition.
And of course, through
I don't know.
You'll see that a lot in sports anime where you have, just in general, like series. It's just a good way to deliver exposition is have someone who doesn't know what the fuck anything is, and then have everything like Luffy. He's also very kind of like backwater, grew up in the middle of fucking nowhere, doesn't know shit about the wide world. So they explain things to the main character so that the audience gets it too, because the audience also needs to be explained to them. And yeah, again, it is cool that they have like the different sides of it being explored through the two different characters who have very different goals and reasons to be a hunter, which of course goes back to the, like, because, one of the big core themes of Hunter x Hunter is desire, is, or greed, not necessarily greed, but like, or maybe even the line between them at times. But, so, yeah, of course, and that's one thing I always felt I liked was how, even, like, the minor characters, you generally have a very good feeling of, like, this is what this character wants, And there's definitely moments, like, and they usually want their own specific thing, and I forget if there's any specific moments from here, but, I think, because when I first read the series, I really started to go, okay, this is good, was actually during the fourth exam on the island with the badges, because, like, that's where that really, because everyone had their own sort of target, and the way all the characters were bouncing off each other and watching each other and doing sneaky shit in service of their goals was I just thought, like, wow, this is really well thought out and clever and cool. And that was when I really started to go, okay, good manga. Not that I didn't like before, but that's when I was really starting to make that jump between, like, okay, this is neat, to okay. And this was not knowing much about it, by the way. Like, this was a couple years ago. I don't know when the real, like, Hunter x Hunter hype train happened.
Yeah, for me, it's been long enough ago that, like, because I stumbled into it blindly, knowing nothing about Hunter x Hunter or its reputation. And so, like, it's hard for me to look back and wonder, like, well, how did I feel about this the first time? Because, like, because, again, like, looking back at, you know, the different phases of the Hunter exam, at the time, I probably just kind of watched it and I probably didn't think much of it. But, like, looking back on it now, even then, like, the monotonous run through the tunnel, like, I talked a bit about that in my video about, like, how even that is interesting, and it's, like, a part that people, you know, aren't as much a fan of because, like, oh, it's kind of monotonous and there's not much really going on. They're just running.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Sorry. I guess that was why you made your video, but I'm just like, like, all the interactions inform to the characters, and oh my god.
Well, yeah, because, like, I think it was like up to this point, because I talked a bit about, like, you know, the Kiriko test and the stuff, and, like, I don't know, like, I find all of this to be really interesting. Like,
there's a lot of cool stuff.
And there's a degree to which, like, how much I would hype it up is kind of playing into the, well, see, because even the minor details are good, so Hunter x Hunter's amazing.
Yeah,
but
no, it's just a really well, like, planned and constructed and written series. Like, that's, but yeah, and it's satisfying. But anyway, I also like how, like, there's this big spread of that, like, they get down to the exam area and there's a big spread of characters and literally one of them matters. Well, there's the one, like, smart guy. He's also the first one to leave.
Yeah.
Wait, who? Oh.
Yeah, but he matters
I meant
for that
matters
very
in the grand
reason.
scheme of the story. Yeah. Well,
yeah, I get you. Like, the interesting thing is the big guy with, like,
yes.
the hammer or whatever he's got on his back. And, like, he never shows up again, but he's just here. And it's like, okay. Like, the fact that there's, like, this big guy, and he, like, juts out in the image, and no one else is that tall, but, like, he's not relevant
like,
at all.
a big breakdown
it's just
of,
kind of
like,
interesting.
oh, look at all these cool guys, and you do see them throughout the exam, like, and some, like, I think if Cherry, the martial artist, is the guy who was with Karapika and Leorio when they were up against Hisoka, then I think all these guys he mentions get at least one moment later.
Yep.
But also none of them are, like, again, grand scheme important at all. Where, like, the comparison I'm thinking of is, like, the supernovas in One Piece, where all of these guys are super fucking important, or become important later, you know. So, or, I mean, some of them haven't become important, but, you know, it's just an interesting comparison where he's like, oh yeah, look, Borvin the Snake Charmer. The next time we see him, he's literally just dead.
Yeah, whereas, like, some of the more important characters, or at least, like by the time we get to the island hunting game, you know, like, none of those characters are introduced here like they are in the 2011 anime. So they're only introduced like as they are relevant.
Like, there's, I mean, I think everyone important
conflict.
is like. But
like some of them
shows
are
up,
set
like
up,
Gitaraker is, or, you know, Illumi, he's, like, there, and he's, like, looking creepy, and it's like a gag, like, Tompa's like, ew, this guy is creepy, I'm ignoring him, but then, like, later it's like, oh, this guy's actually one of the most important characters in the, yeah, so, yeah, subversion, and of course, I guess, I still don't. Why the hell did 2011 make it so Hisoka turned this guy's arms into flowers? I know why. Because it's censorship, but it's just... probably one of the most questionable choices, because it doesn't make sense for Hisoka's powers at all. I just wanted to bring that up because it's a really weird thing.
He's a magician. He's
sure.
Sneaky.
Anyway, there's Tompa. He's the Dream Crusher. Rookie Crusher. He likes taking out the babies, and of course, which has no effect. Like Gon's like, "Oh, this tastes bad," for his like poison. And of course, Killua just fucking tanks it. He's like, "Yeah, I don't even care. I know."
Yeah. Tompa's all like, "Wow, he's drank so many of these. He's gonna like die." And Killua's just like, "Nah, I have a tolerance for poison." And Tompa's just like, "Wait, but he doesn't even know what kind of drug I use. Is he resistant to everything?"
It's fun.
There's also an important little panel here, which I mean it gets reiterated throughout the course of the arc, but like the devil himself can pass the hunter exam, and if an examiner says it's okay, which is another cool thing about this arc, is that like not only does it set up all this stuff with deception and it fleshing out different, the different types of hunters you can be, and how that is relevant to the characters and their motivations, but also it's like already like immediately hinting that the sort of system that runs this world, it's not
right.
It's not
because,
all sunshine and rainbows. It's not perfect.
They're
very
an eccentric
clearly
and weird lot, and this is a test for pulling out the most eccentric and weird. Out of the people, like this is like what a 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 100,000 makes it to the exam, and within those like several thousand people, like a handful become a hunter every year. So and that's something very quickly shown. And then of course with the devil, anyone who hunters are fine with can become a hunter. Like I think.
Well, yeah, there's even the line that comes up later. I think it's in the island hunting game. Or one of the characters says, this is like a test organized where the committee is okay with the applicants killing each other. Like, so
right,
that's the type of system that they run.
And then, what I was going to mention was actually the, I think it was the line about like, maybe I'm misremembering, but where, because a lot of people are interested in Gon, so he had the most chances to become a hunter. Like, and again, the hunters want other hunters, so like why not give more chances to the ones they most want to become hunters, but yeah, it's the hunter. I mean, it's sad because like I want to bring up something, but I'm pretty sure it happens after the anime, even though it's pretty it's so like anyway, so yeah, they do the first exam. Satolos takes him on a run.
Oh, I got it's a funny little challenge, because like not only do some of the applicants drop out, but this is where people who didn't like the hunter exam dropped out. They couldn't take it.
Nothing's happening. Oh man. But no, there's a lot of good interactions. Like how one of the hyped up guys is the first to go. They're like, oh, look at the smart boy, and then they just he gets crushed. He's the first one out.
Yeah. It's a way of saying that, like, hey, even characters who get like the spotlight, like it's a way to craft like the illusion that no one is safe.
I'm glad you mentioned illusion, because obviously like the main characters are gonna be fine, So, but yeah, there's another moment where like Leorio's like, you know what, fuck dignity, I'm gonna strip so I can run better, and even Karapika kind of like, he's got a good point, and takes off his cloak thing, and then they talk a bit about
and that I was gonna say that's where the other rookie failing is kind of a good point of contrast, because like that could have been Leorio could have been that guy who gave up and who quit. But if you're willing to give up, then you don't.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, because I mentioned
Shounen,
it's about
power
endurance,
of will.
But, willpower is obviously a big factor in that, and like that was what was highlighted with the because Tompo was talking to the other guys who were bullying the guy who's the bookworm whose name I'm forgetting, where like his will gave out as well. Like maybe his body could have kept going, but the will is considerably important as well. So and
his name is Nicholas, and the only reason I know that is because I made that video, and the name will never leave me.
Nice. But yeah, anyway, to compare Nicholas to Leorio, like Leorio was in that situation, but he got the opposite. He got he was bolstered, and he bolstered himself too.
The power of friendship.
Willpower, friendship. Never underestimate the power of friendship. Hiro Mashima saying the wise words that we all must keep in our hearts. Through Musica. Anyway, but But yeah, we get more of Leorio's deal where, Kurapika's like, hey, come on, everything can't be bought, and we find out, like, yeah, he wants to become a doctor, money, but money is the issue to even become a doctor, let alone help people, and he's a good boy. Leorio's a very good boy. Wait, no. I was like, wait, didn't Kuwabara want to become no, he was just studying. Kuwabara is like the least doctor person imaginable.
Leorio is just a continuation of Kuwabara's character arc. Because, like, maybe, no, it's probably not. But I mean, like, cause it is interesting how, like, where Kuwabara left off, Leorio sort of begins. Like,
in a
Kuwabara
way, this very
became
like,
studious, and now, like, Leorio, he's got to, like,
like, one detail I've always liked about Leorio is that, like, he's the dope, he's, he's pretty dumb, but, like, so it's like, oh yeah, he's the weakest. But actually, like, especially when later in the Zoldyck, maybe it was not quite there in the anime adaptations, but, because I specifically remember it from the manga, but, like, what they're doing all the strength training, and, like, by the time, like, Golem's able to actually push through the level 1 door, Leorio can push through level 2, and not even Kurapika. Like, he's physically the strongest of those three. Like, obviously Killua's, different, because he's the assassin, but I just always thought that was interesting that Leorio had a different, like, level of physical ability. But, like, you could also say, like, oh, deconstruction, because he's the strongest, but he's also the weakest because he's not very smart. So whatever. I'm not gonna stop memeing on that. I'm sorry. Like, there's one specific moment I want to talk about in regards to the half of the Team 4-Star Bento video that I watched. But I want to reread the moment they talk about first.
Ooh, that video. That'll be a fun one.
But anyway, you also get Gon and Killua, because Killua is like, hey, a kid like me, someone, because. I just realized something about Killua that I hadn't thought about before. Like, even though it's probably supposed to be obvious. Because, especially when you are a kid, having people around your age is pretty important. Because, like, especially at, even though they're 12, like, they're towards the tail end of this. Where just the differences in ages at is much more pronounced. Like, compared, like, I'm 28. How old are you, Mathwiz?
I will be 22.
20, yeah, so we're about 7 years apart, but we're old enough that it doesn't matter. We're able to have these conversations. Maybe it helps that I didn't grow up and I'm still reading Shounen and crying to like Aikatsu and magical girl shows. But still,
that's the real sign that you've matured.
Which is funny. Maybe that is true, because, like, when I was, like, in middle school, like, I had no friends. I had my little brother, and I was probably mature for my age. My little brother was average for his age. So I was too old for the kids, like, when we go to, like, family meetups and stuff, but I was too young for the adults. So I was kind of alone. And so compare that to Killua, who's pretty much only grown up with his family. Like, he has his siblings, but again, there's, like, a hierarchy there of younger and older. So, of course, he, like, latches on to Golem because, like, here, in this world of, like, hunters and confident people, Killua is still way above, like, basically everyone in the exam except for Illumi and Hisoka. Maybe Hanzo's special, I don't know. We'll talk about him. But, Killua is definitely a major deal. But, like, Golem's, his age and actually still here. Like, so, of course, Killua takes, interest in him because here's a peer. Here's someone his age he can connect to. Even if, again, they're still very different. But, like, they become friends, and their friendship is honestly one of the best parts of Hunter x Hunter. Because they're good boys, even though Killua's got to become a good boy first. He's a good boy in different ways. He's the soft, edgy boy. Or wait, no, maybe I mixed it up. Anyway. Hiei
is the. Never mind. I'm gonna confuse myself too. Go back to that one Yu Yu Hakusho episode where I said it. I knew what I meant. I'll remember it maybe.
But no, it's neat.
I'm also kind of disappointed that, like, Killua's skateboard doesn't really, like, eventually he just upgrades to yo-yos. Like, that becomes his weapon, his, oddball weapon of choice. But, like, the skateboard is cool, and then it's, like, only relevant here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And, I mean, the fishing rod gets some use for a while, but it also kind of gets abandoned. Though, which is funny, because in the 99 anime, they gave it the sort of, like, oh, it was your father's, it's an important fishing rod, and Gon's like, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
So, which is exactly the same thing that happened in Pokemon with the hat, because, oh, this is your dad's hat, Ash, and he's like, new hat.
Like, new hat.
So, I don't know what it is about 90s anime that give your fatherly attachments to objects that the character possesses that he abandons later. I don't know. Weird connection in my brain. But anyway, they go to the Swindler's Swamp. And there's there's even a panel where he's like, oh, special thanks to Takeuchi Naoko, who helped with the color pages. Of course, the author of Sailor Moon, and I think in one of the later volumes, he says that she was my girlfriend, and now so he got married over the course of the early serialization of Hunter x Hunter. So, which is neat. We still need to go through Sailor Moon somehow. Next time on the Nen Show Podcast, Sailor Moon. No, I don't know.
There was one particular line. It was in the Leorio and Kurapika interaction that I found to be particularly interesting, just in what it means for Kurapika's character, because earlier in his introduction on the ship, he had said that he could offer a plausible lie to kind of divert the question the captain was giving him, but he's like, nah, I'm not. Or he says something like, I'm not going to do that because deceit is akin to I forget exactly what he said, but basically he's all about being honorable, and he's got where the heck is the quote? But basically when he talks to Gon, and he's contrasting Leorio with oh, hunters are noble and hunters are this, that, and everything else. But then when he talks about his ambition of wanting to hunt down the Phantom Troop and regain the eyes of his clan, he talks about being a contract hunter, and that's how he'll get his information and be able to go to these places and whatever. And Leorio says, well, everyone hates those kinds of hunters. They have no pride or honor, which is kind of the antithesis of what Kurapika stands for, which I guess is just
that is it. I hadn't considered that because I would assume Kurapika wants to he's willing to keep his pride and honor, but he also wants to avenge his clan. So I guess there's sort of a
because then he says my pride is nothing in comparison to the suffering of my clan. So he and I mean that kind of just is his character arc. I guess it's a little hint at what his character arc ends up being in a nutshell.
Which of course we'll get, especially in York New. Well, I guess York New is really the last time we get a lot of Kurapika this for what we're reading. Damn, that's weird to think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna catch up to the manga after we finish the podcast, so I'm getting closer to the point where I can say I'm reading everything and current with everything in Shonen Jump, which is just a personal goal. But yeah.
Bonus episode after the podcast. It's a non-canon episode.
Non-canon episode. Don't worry, we'll discuss the Succession War in full. 20, 25, 28. I don't know. Look, it only took Togashi 10 years to do Chimera Ant arc. Anyway. So yeah, back to the deception stuff with the shapeshifter who's like, oh look, the imposter, this examiner's imposter, and Hisoka pretty easily deal with that.
Yeah, and this is, I guess, a part where, more specifically, the censorship kind of, definitely with Hisoka and the Hunter exam, in both anime, it's a lot less graphic. There's the whole part where he, when he's up, obviously here he's got, cards, actually impaling the dude's face, and it's, the very first image is, it's, going through, his nose, it's clearly, split through the bone, and it's in his face, lodged in there. Later, when he fights the guys in the Misty Forest and goes up against Kurapika and Leorio, he's slitting people's throats and stuff with it, which in the anime it's just a big swipe and they all fall or something. It's much tamer. And I guess this is where people kind of I've definitely seen this complaint lodged at the
anime?
The 2011 anime specifically, that it's less graphic and it kind of undersells the gruesomeness of Hisoka, right, and it kind of underplays that aspect of the series, the darker stuff.
Right, which you
and I guess that's fair.
Well, you kind of like that because when it does get darker later, it was surprising to you, which is fair. But there's all I don't know. I think both are fine to enjoy or dislike. because there's merit to both, but just depends on which you prefer in this case. Because I don't think Alexander even brought up the point about how the tonal shift, where it's like lighter versus darker, but of course the manga doesn't quite have that. You could say overall it's lighter, but there's still dark shit that the anime undercuts. Another example is on the airship when Killua was mad about Netero, and he fucking dices those guys up. In the anime, it's just the camera's outside of the airship, and there's he just it happens off screen, more or less. You see vague silhouettes. There's no violence to it. Well, there's violence, but there's no gore or anything compared to in the manga where he just so it's definitely different. Yeah. So anyway, they go through a bunch of the creatures in the swamp, who are all again going into the deception thing.
And I remember someone pointing out, I think it was in the it's similar to in the Genkai selection when they go into the forest, and they're just kind of the little the side panels with the different creatures in the forest, and this definitely carries a similar
that's
vibe to that.
I hadn't thought about that.
It's just an interesting comparison.
Also, you got the full volumes, right? Yeah, you got the full volumes with all the extra pages and recap stuff, and in the front with all the here's the characters that are in this volume, right? When you were reading it, okay.
Yeah, I've got every volume. Oh,
that's right, you own them. Duh. Well, because I took the art under the cover for volume 2. It's a little girl eating food, and her face is all messy, but something about her expression, the way her eyes are drawn, it also looks kind of off, and I'm I don't know. It's weird. It has nothing to do with Hunter x Hunter. It's another one of...
No, yeah, it's one of those weird Togashi-isms. In Yu Yu Hakusho, where he would just throw them in the pages.
He just drew a woman or a girl, and especially the Dark Tournament one where he's just sometimes I get carried away with my preferences, where he put it in the manga. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those weird, like you said, Togashi-isms. Anyway, Hisoka is just like cutting down dudes for fun, because that's Hisoka. He likes killing and battle, especially battle. And yeah, he gets he faces off with Cherry, the martial artist, and Kurapika and Leorio. I was correct. So he does get a brief little moment, I suppose, where he's like, yeah, we don't stand a chance. Let's run. Kind of like, but Leorio, he's like, let's fight. Even though I'm obviously outmatched, and in that he earns Hisoka's favor, so even though he gets wrecked, he's like, yeah, I think even or make sure that he carries Leorio to he's like, he helps him even. I don't know, Hisoka's interesting, even though he's obviously I'm not I'm not going to kill you until you are ready to be killed, fucking Hisoka. I don't know, what did you have to say, or if you have anything to say about this whole exchange?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting that Hisoka is kind of playing examiner in this case, and the only one who doesn't pass his little test thing, I mean, it's never really dwelled upon, so maybe it doesn't matter at all, but, the only one who doesn't pass his test is Kurapika, because, Leorio goes back, and he gets a pass for his gutsiness, or his stupidity, or whatever it is that Hisoka values, and then, Gon, he shows up, and he, saves his friend, and still gets blown out, but he shows some impressiveness, and so he passes the test for whatever reason, but Kurapika just kind of ran off and then didn't come back until after Hisoka
he didn't pass, so. But he also didn't fail, because at the start of the next chapter you see the martial artist pinned to he's strung up in a tree with one of Hisoka's cards, so the one who suggested the idea of running, because we don't stand a chance, he absolutely failed, where Kurapika didn't necessarily pass, I guess, or wasn't told that he passed, but he didn't, Hisoka didn't hunt him down and fucking murder him for running, because he did agree to run, but
that's an interesting change, because in the 2011, no, I think in both anime, maybe even, definitely in the 2011, the third guy isn't there, he gets killed with all the other randos, so it's Kurapika who does suggest running, which is not how it goes in the anime
Hisoka's
or the
character
manga.
a bit, because again, he's a character who likes fighting, so people who avoid fighting, like in this case with Cherry the martial artist, he just gets killed for, like, you know, going against Hisoka's preferences. And later on during the badge hunt, where you have, like, Kurapika and Leorio avoid a fight with, like, you know, they play the badge game and, like, oh, we don't need your badge or whatever. And that pisses Hisoka the fuck off. Like, he gets that really fucking creepy expression. Ooh, it's a good...
Well, I don't know if it pisses him
definitely,
off.
He's definitely, like...
I don't know, Hisoka's motivations are weird, but it's like, it intrigues him. It's like, ooh, they've improved.
See, I took it as,
and
like...
it's like, I'd like to kill them, but I can't kill them now.
That's true.
Or, like, maybe it frustrates him in that, like, he can't kill them now,
even if
and that's why he needs to kill somebody else.
Like, he didn't get any, like, even, like, the sparring matches he just had with... Because, like, you know, the difference between, like, sparring with someone with potential and, like, just killing someone who's, like, no, you know, threat at all is, you know, like, he wants... you know, I guess, like, I always kind of read it as, like, he wants some kind of conflict, like, fight, to move his body to have that thrill, and he didn't get that. So because after that he's like, oh, Gon's like, oh yeah, okay, it doesn't matter who he runs into next, they're fucking dead. Like, so I always took it as, like, some kind of anger in that, like, I didn't get a fight, even though, and maybe because he definitely did want to fight them, but, like, I don't know, Hisoka's a character. All right. But yeah, I didn't think about, because at the end of the day, he does, like, say. He helps Kurapika. He's like, he tells him the message about the spiders, which we don't really find out until later. And he gives up, so Kurapika gets his license. And, you know, so even though I don't think Kurapika, maybe I guess he quote unquote passed by being smart on the island, but even if Hisoka didn't like it at the time.
Well, yeah, it's a good point. It's like this encounter clearly happened to set up the later encounter. And it shows, like, the difference, because, like, in the first, you know, the swamp place, the Swindler's Swamp, they ran off, or, you know, Kurapika runs off and Leorio just kind of gets, okay, so I guess, like, Leorio doesn't really change, I mean, like, he's willing to fight, which was the case in both, but he sort of gets bailed out by Kurapika in that second encounter, which, even then, like, they both still look more capable than they did before, because they both leave on their own 2 feet, and they don't necessarily run away. Like, they gave away a like, I don't know, like, they negotiated as opposed to just, like,
yes,
avoiding confrontation or confronting and failing completely.
Yeah,
like, they confronted, and they came out better off.
They entered a different kind of confrontation, you could say, one of more, like, you know, reasoning and tactics, rather than, like, they didn't avoid confrontation like Cherry did. Because, like, you know, Hisoka, like, he does the dodgeball match later, which is not a direct fight, but it's still like a you know, I don't know. Hisoka's
or maybe it's more like because, like, they appear more capable, because, like, it's more of like a negotiation the second time, like, they're engaging each other almost as, like, equals, whereas this first one could maybe come off as more condescending, because, you know, Leorio gets his lights punched out and then gets carried off to the next phase, so he kind of is given a pass there. Whereas Kurapika doesn't engage at all.
That's true. So we'll definitely keep it in mind going forward. But it's definitely, I didn't expect to talk about this moment so much. But anyway, moving on.
I also like the detail, because, like, I'm looking forward to more visual humor from Togashi throughout this manga, because we get the detail set up that, you know, Gon has a very strong scent. He's very animalistic in that regard. And even later, Killua references, he's like, oh, like a dog? And there's, like, the image of Gon with, like, the dog face. So it's the main character of a Togashi manga upgraded from a cat boy to a dog boy. But we still get the cat boy anyway, because Togashi is good.
Yep. Anyway, Gon and Kurapika talk a bit about the Hisoka. And their own sort of takes, like, Kurapika thinks that he's too bloodthirsty to be a hunter, but he's, you know, above and beyond in, like, you know, combat ability and sense, which may or may not be a secret technique called Nen that we're not supposed to know about yet. I do really like how Nen is sort of, like, gradually introduced throughout the series. Like, it's here from the beginning, like, but we don't really, you know, but then later on, and so retroactively it's explained to us in Heaven's Arena, And then, of course, we gradually like learn more and more about its mechanics and stuff, because it is a fairly complex system, relatively speaking. So it helps to, ease into it. Like, I've always thought it was kind of like elegant in like, so to compare it to One Piece, where One Piece has sort of like, well, because like Nen has basic abilities that everyone has, and then it has the unique abilities that individuals have, and others can theoretically learn in some ways. But where One Piece kind of has both of those, but in separate systems. Because they have the Devil Fruit system, the unique abilities, and then they have Haki, which anyone can use. So I always thought it was kind of interesting that Hunter x Hunter starts out with the basic abilities and goes into the more complex ones, and then One Piece starts out with the unique abilities and then goes into the basic ones like later. Like those are the mysterious ones, which is interesting point of comparison. But yeah, like I said, anyway. Oh yeah, there's.
Another thing that I think is also kind of interesting, like in the last Yu Yu Hakusho part, we talked about Togashi and how text, or like how text dense his manga can be. And I do think it's kind of interesting that like even in the very beginning, Hunter x Hunter has a lot of dialogue bubbles, and there are plenty of panels where like sometimes it's just text, like, or it's maybe like a little flash or something, or speed lines.
Like I'm looking at one panel here where Karapika is talking about how Hisoka is a superhuman and he's never encountered an equal. There's nothing else in that panel except for text. Like it's very much there's other panels where he does like a zoom in on it's just the character's face or expression. Like he's doing a lot more. Like he's starting off using his shortcut techniques, which I think is just. Like, again, it's not, like, he still has, like, great art, like, but...
Yeah, like, I definitely think the art seems very consistent. It's not to the same high quality that some of the early Yu Yu Hakusho stuff was. But yeah, like, I think he's definitely trying to craft his manga from, like, a smarter, more...
He's trying to...
not selfish, but, like, more self-preservation.
So he's, like, planning it in a way, like... By taking these shortcuts, I guess, you could say, like, oh, the art's not as good. But also, he's able to function so that he can actually write the story. And it did last a few years. Like, he was able to keep going. Maybe I have an image. Hold on. I'm going to send it to you, and so you have it for reference, and then we'll have it for a discussion. It is a...
I don't need to see the goddamn turkey again, Craftsdwarf. I get it.
So, it's basically how long... basically where the hiatuses were and where the actual chapters were. It's very sad because like once you hit 2006, you stop getting chapters. But
that was also about when we had Chimera Ant arc. So is the trade-off worth it? We'll find out.
Like he did have quite a few breaks, like especially towards those last 2 years. But he kept up serialization more or less longer than Yu Yu Hakusho. Even though again he did have like in his first year he had 3 breaks, but he only started it like a couple months in. His second year, I'm counting like more like 8 breaks. So, and Yu Yu Hakusho only lasted like 4 years, 5 years, less than 5 years, I think. But I am noticing a lot like notable break stretches around like year 3 or 4. So before we got into real hiatus hell. But yeah, it's definitely worth noticing. Especially since we've been talking about it pretty consistently. So it's kind of hard not to bring up Togashi and his health and, the issues he's had in producing manga when, like, nowadays you're getting, like, 10 chapters of Succession War a year if you're lucky. So it's sad. Anyway, moving on to, they reached the exam site. They passed on to the next phase, which is the cooking phase.
Yes, this is like, I'm really gonna come off as like, oh, Hunter x Hunter is great in every aspect, and this is why. See, and again, it's where I feel like I might oversell it, but like, it's good. This is like incredibly me stuff, I guess. Like Hunter x Hunter knows how to appeal to me in just the right way.
Probably your favorite, anime, as we said. Maybe your favorite manga. We'll find out in a couple months.
Like, I don't understand how people don't find the Hunter exam material to be, like a bad introduction or like not really be indicative. Like to some extent, I agree. Like it might not be super indicative of where the series goes, but like even with like the more censored, toned down version the anime kind of, or the 2011 anime at least kind of presents, I still find this really interesting. I don't understand why people don't like this.
The first one with the pigs is just, I don't know. I don't have anything to say about it. It's like, fine. But the second part with the sushi is honestly like, so we just read Level E. We talked about it a bit. I wasn't super, like, I liked it. It was interesting. But it wasn't, I didn't find it funny. This was funny. Like, this might be some of my favorite, like, comedy Togashi's ever done. Like, the gags are just super good. Do you want to talk about it? Because I want to talk about it. So you go ahead.
Well, I mean, like, I guess, like, the thing about, like, the anime, or at least, like, again, the 2011 anime, I'm doing a terrible job of not comparing to the anime. But, like, sure, it doesn't adapt the sushi joke, but, like, a lot of the comedy is still preserved, because you still get the general idea of, like, oh, Kurapika is going through all these logic, like, going through all the logic puzzles and figuring out the different curveballs being thrown here. And even then just still, like, utterly failing at, like, making a good dish.
I gotta interrupt because that is the best gag possibly in the entire manga, where, like, first, like, Leorio does the really fucked up, horrible sushi, then Gon does, like, he just wraps a little fish in rice, and then Kurapika goes through, like, a whole bunch of, like, logic, assumptions of what sushi must be based on, like, how Menshi's holding her chopsticks and stuff, how, like, what's failed so far, and then he just does the exact same thing that Gon did. And then Menshi compares it to Leorio, and Kurapika's just, like, traumatized from his absolute failure. And
yeah, this is a case where the manga art specifically definitely, I think, sells the joke, because I think I don't remember the anime like having that specific like look of like the scratchy eyes and like the bags and like everything, just like the disheveled hair. Like, it felt more, from what I remember, it was more of a dignified, like, surprise.
And where,
like, what?
In this case...
But this is just like, no, you did not just say that about me. You did not just compare me to Leorio.
It's
like...
It didn't even matter. Yeah, it's just funny. I want to talk about Hanzo a bit, because, like, he's like the comedy relief through most of this, because, like, here he's, like, with the sushi, he's the one who actually recognizes it. And then... like, before he's, like, laughing, like, haha, I understand what this is, and everyone's, like, he's like, I better not let off, like, because that's his joke, because he's a ninja, but he's the worst, like, don't, like, his funny introduction, he goes to his hump, and he's like, don't tell anyone, but I'm a ninja from Japan, like, and here he's like,
yeah, Hanzo is like, so good.
Oh yeah, sushi, I know what sushi is, because I'm from Japan, better not tell anyone, and everyone's like, he knows, he's not. And of course, you get...
Yeah. Or even then when he's like, I can't let anyone find out. He just like glances over like super cautiously, and then he just like starts like bursts out laughing.
He like bitches about how like, well, it's funny because he loses the test and he's like, what? Oh, it's just sushi with rice and wasabi. It all tastes the same. And he explains exactly what it is after trying to keep it secret. And so not only is he basically like this comedy relief character, but then again, you got the subversion of expectations where it's like, oh, Gon versus the comedy relief. And Hanzo just completely trashes Gon, and it's... And there's one thing I have...
Yeah, so he's a capable, incapable ninja. Like, at the end of the arc, he's, like, giving people, like, his location. Like, he's like, oh, if you're ever in my country, find me here. And they're like, you're a terrible ninja.
Just put a sign on your bald forehead,
that's not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, no, Hanzo is... Because I've never really seen anyone talk about him, like, at all. Like, Hanzo, he exists, but, like, rereading this part, it's like, nah, Hanzo's good. Like, he's perfect for exactly what he's there to accomplish, because he's funny, and, again, like, because even... I was going to mention it later, but I'll mention it now. When he defeats Gon, the panel is like a slapstick thing of the straight man punching the funny guy because Gon's being a fucking stupid child. And so you have the comedy character defeating Gon in a comedy way. And it's just like, it's perfect. Togashi, it's good stuff.
Yes.
So, The sushi phase is really good. Or the cooking phase in general. Because we also get to see Hunters being, Hunters, because you all fail, fuck you, I'm the boss, I make the rules. I guess here's what happens when you give a fucking Hunter authority. They're gonna be shitty. And of course Netero has to come down, like the fucking, it's interesting, because here's just like, oh yeah, old guy, but we know, we've gone through Chimera Ant, we know what this dude is capable of. So, of course Menchie gets serious when he shows up.
Yeah, I do think, like, the specifics of this are kind of, I mean, I don't know, it's just fun. Like, you know, the reason, like, the thing ends up getting reversed, and it's like, oh, okay, well, you don't actually all fail, because, you know, like, she had said, like, oh, there was like a bug, like, nobody was supposed to know how to make the dish, because, like, she wanted them to improvise and, like, make something new and unique, and so, like, it's definitely, like, selfish of her, but then also, like, it ends up backfiring on her when Hanzo just gives out, like, you make it like this, because then everybody makes it, and it all tastes the same, or none of it is any good, and so like it throws off her method of I don't know.
She made a bad test, and of course, like, Netero's solution is like, okay, why not, you know, show them that it's.
Yeah, yes. It was a very selfish test, because she was in it for herself as opposed to, like, being an impartial, or maybe not impartial, but, like, being an examiner and understanding, the other guy, like, even somebody said, has to pass.
There's like a handful of chefs in the entire world who could satisfy her. Like, she's up there with them. So her demands are completely unreasonable. So yeah, Netero's just like, do something that's reasonable. Like, show them that it's doable. And like she does it like it's nothing. Like, and it's funny because, like, knowing the series and just, like, the capabilities of Hunters, like, I'm just like, yeah, she just jumped down that giant valley, grabbed a vine, picked an egg, and just climbed back up. Yeah, that's the thing that people can do in this world. And they just go like, what the fuck?
Yes.
And of course,
because at that point, Netero is like, okay, show them that it's something that you can do. Show them that they have a chance of passing it. It's like, okay, this is what we come up with, and it's fun.
And then you also get the arc with.
Can we also talk about how, like, Netero's introduction, like the panel where he first shows up, and not like when he shows up at the exam site, but like when he's talking to Beans or whatever. I think that's his name.
I was gonna mention,
and he's just like holding the glass on his like toe, and he's got this super long straw. What is that? Why?
You're right. I didn't notice that. He's just vibing, just chilling, just got a drink with. I don't know. He's training. Even I don't know, Mathwiz. Nobody knows but Togashi, and apparently Beans, because he doesn't even fucking blink. He's just like, "Yep, that's Netero, just doing his thing."
Yep.
Oh yeah, I wanted to mention him earlier because, like, when he first shows up, it's like almost like a throwaway. Like, I didn't want to actually draw a person here. It's like, because his head is just a slightly oblong circle. But then no, that's actually just what he looks like. He's just a bean person, like.
Yes.
Which doesn't really translate in the anime because he's drawn green and it's more deliberate. Where in the manga, it's like, oh, it's a simplified art style, like.
Yeah, that's true. Like, it almost does look like it could just be a normal person if given more detail.
Because even if, like, during the sushi exam, there's like a panel where they're all running and they're all drawn exactly the same way. Like, they have the same big nose, the same, like, jagged line of hair. Yeah, it's like almost just they don't, like, they look like abstractions of people, but they're obviously not like, these are the Hunters doing the exam. Like, they don't have a unique design. So it's just, it's a manga. Like, I feel like you get away with that more easily in manga than you do anime. Maybe, but maybe that's just me. So I don't know.
I also think it's kind of fun, because there's another similar sort of shot where it's a little earlier when, like, they're going to hunt down the pigs and they're running back with, like, the pigs that they've taken out that they're gonna cook, and like in the crowd of people, like, there's a bunch of just like random people. But then you also see, like, here's Hisoka, here's the main four, like those four, they just kind of stand out in low detail, and it's I don't know, it's cute.
You're right, I hadn't thought about that, or I didn't notice rather. But the second phase is good. Oh, and I do like, I don't think I mentioned it yet. I was going to. The sumo wrestler gets like a little character arc of, like, he's like trashing, like, it's just cooking, it's just food, it doesn't matter, but then he actually tastes the egg and he's like, damn, that was a good fucking egg. And he's like, well, I feel like maybe, oh yeah, he'll pass the exam and come back as a, he'll start becoming a gourmet hunter. Like, his life is changed from this. But then I remembered what happens next year.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't know if it undercuts the arc, but it's like, yeah, I'll be here next year, and then fucking Killua just destroys everybody. Like, there goes your character arc, buddy. Sorry.
I also think it's kind of interesting. It would have been. I don't know exactly how Togashi could have run with it, but like it must just be like slapstick emphasis, because like when he gets knocked away by Buhara, he's like, he has no teeth. Like, all his teeth got chipped, and he's like dead. But then like when he comes back, later, he's got teeth.
Yeah, and he's got he's got also like the only lasting injury was he's got like, you know, tissue up his nostrils from the nosebleed. Like, just, teeth are like the cartoon recovery. Like they grow. Like I just thought about the One Piece gag from Whole Cake Island where Luffy had his tooth knocked out and he just regrows it with milk.
Yeah,
fucking 10 out of 10. Anyway, So anyway, they get an airship ride to the next exam. Tompa, of course, tries to psych everyone out, like, oh, they could start the exam at any time. But it doesn't work. Everyone just chills. A lot of good interactions, like all the examinees talking about the people there, the notable ones. Hisoka's spooking everyone, of course. Oh, and I love the conversation with Gon and Killua. I have a feeling you want to say something about it, so go ahead.
Well, yeah, this is a little more interesting in manga form, again, because especially like in the previous phase, Killua is not really shown to be with the group. Like, he's there, but he's not like lumped in with the other characters when they're doing all their goofy humor and stuff. So there's like a little more. You know, the manga does more to kind of separate him from the rest of the group. And so, like, the moments where he does actually interact with Gon, they stand out a little more. And, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it really does more to, like, emphasize that, like, it doesn't matter how much time he spent with Gon or whatever. You know, like, their friendship is still powerful, regardless of however much.
Because, I mean, I was just about to say, like, you know, yeah, he's separate from the group, but it's Gon, you know, that he's the one that he's interested in. Like, because I don't, like, even thinking forward, I don't think he has particular bonds with Kurapika and Leorio, like, in the same, like, you know, not that nothing happens between them, but obviously he cares way more about Gon. You know, he's with Gon the whole time, you know? So, and I do just like the general interaction, like, oh, what do your parents do? Oh, mass murder. And Gon's like, both of them? Like, he just takes it in stride completely. Like,
yeah.
They're good boys. And he, like, Killua just fucking rants, like, I stabbed my mom in the face and ran away from home. And he's, like, talking about how he's gonna hunt them down, and Gon's just kind of like, oh, okay, maybe you could calm down a little.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's such an important scene, like, for really just laying the groundwork for their dynamic. It's
and of course, like, obviously Killua hasn't really done anything yet except for be immune to poison, so it's not until like after the match with the ball that you really get the Killua being the edgy boy.
Yeah, and I mean, what specifically was I gonna say? Fuck. I don't remember what it was. Oh, yeah. Like, he talks about how his cute kid routine is more about, like, oh, no one ever knows if I'm being serious. And so, like you said, he does just end up ranting to Gon, and it's, like, the most we kind of learn about him. Mm-hmm. Which is, yeah.
Where Gon just sort of, again, he takes it, he's like, yeah, okay. He just listens, and he doesn't judge based on, like, Gon doesn't have preconceptions, so he's just, like, because he himself is a kid, so he's just, like, he takes Killua as he comes, and actually, you know, instead of like trying, like, oh, you're just a kid, he's like, oh yeah, sure, your parents are mass murderers, why not? So they're good boys. I already said it. But anyway,
what's that one Nirvana song? Come as you are. This is Gon. Like, he's like, yeah,
yeah. And and we get a fun little encounter with Netero where he's like being a weird old dude, and he like plays a prank on him where he like releases his one of the basic Nen things. I don't remember which one, and spooks him.
It's just bloodlust. It's just bloodlust.
And it's not, Nen doesn't exist, you're right. And it comes from the, like, he does the, like, Nen user equivalent of, like, tapping a person's shoulder and then going to the other side of them while they look that way. Like, that's the Nen user equivalent.
Pretty much.
Yep.
I also like the dichotomy between the reactions, because, like, Killua is, like, he's got, like, the tiny eyes, and he's, like, the quick turn around, he's like, who the fuck is this? Whereas Gon is just like, what? Is there someone there? Like, it's just totally different emotions, expressions. It's good.
Yep.
There was a point, like, 2 years ago or so, where I had thought I wanted to make a video about this fight, and it's bad, because, like, I just looked back at the notes, and all it is just, like, I hadn't gotten beyond the point of, like, okay, here are all the events that happen, and the title is, like, wait, hang on, where did it go? The title is, like, defying the 1v1 formula, Hunter x Hunter. It's so bad. But aside from, like, the video probably being bad, I do really, really like this fight. But I just, like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to explain the good.
I say we say what we can here, because it's definitely fun. Because I mean, Netero, like, he's like, he gives him the challenge where it's like, if you get this ball, I will give you your license right now. Because obviously, like, you know, they're already here, so why not? And if they're that capable, because he's a big fucking deal. He's the fucking chairman. But of course, he's also Netero, so, like, you know, Killua's already strong, like, as we know from it later, but he, like, kicks him, and, like, he's like, ow. And of course you get Gon's sort of, like, he's, like, I like the chapter cover where, like, because earlier you had Gon, like, looking in two directions, like, with a dirt face, where, when Karapika and Leorio were telling him about how hunters and stuff, and here you have that with Netero, where he's, like, watching Killua and Gon at the same time.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, this scene, it's just, like, a fun conflict in general with, you know, like, Netero not using his arm. He's using, like, one arm and one leg, and so there's, like, the interesting. It's like, it's important for, like, establishing Netero's sort of characterization and how he be, and it does. You know, It's sort of like the first time that Gon and Killua are really, like, working together, and we see how, like, they're not on the same page, and they still have to kind of figure things out.
Yeah.
It's good at, like, establishing some semblance of a power ceiling, because we know that Netero is so far above these guys that, you know, there's the point where he, like, gets serious for a brief moment, where he just, like, they get the ball away from him and they're about to win, and then he just, like, puts a little bit of effort into a little spring in his step, and he blows past them, and that's when Killua is like, all right, we have no chance. I'm going to kill this guy if we keep going, so I got to stop. Whereas Gon, he has the... Well, Gon has, like, the different reaction, too, where he's like, well, okay, I'm going to... you know, I don't stand a chance of, you know, beating this guy, but I'm going to see if I can make him use his arm. You know, I'm going to... whatever. So he, like, he tries to find room for growth in the situation, whereas Killua just backs out entirely.
Yeah, like, Gon wants, like, and he when he gets him to use the other hand, he, like, passes out because he's a good boy. Because, you know, Gon is just excited to have any better progress, where Killua is like, well, if I can't get a perfect result, then why try in the first place? Like, because there's nothing in it for him if he gets Netero to use his other arm. You know, like, it doesn't matter. So he gives up. And also he has the needle in his head, which we'll talk about later, where he's, you know, it puts more doubts in his head. It, you know, keeps him from acting when he might have otherwise, you know, like, so he's literally being controlled by his family to you know, not try. Yeah,
it's a mix of, like, it's one of those things, like, again, we'll talk more about the needle as, like, a sort of like a literal manifestation of like the internal conflict. So it's like the psychological being expressed through the physical to get all poetic about it.
I mean, I guess
or is it just mind control?
I mean, I'd say it's a bit of both. Like, because kind of one way I thought of it is like yeah, they're definitely like Illumi in particular is trying to manipulate Killua to be a certain way. That the family obviously has their expectations of him, but also they don't even like, or Illumi doesn't quite even trust their ability, like the family's ability to control Killua, and has put a physical thing on Killua, which I just think drives home the sort of like the lengths they're willing to go to make Killua be part of their family. Like, it's not just like conditioning and basically abuse. Like, it's also just
so
like,
it's not like a kind of mind control where like, oh, as soon as mind control is undone, it reverses the character, or like whatever sort of potential story could have been
mind
there.
Control. It's more just like a suggestion. Like,
it's like the voice in the back of your head sort of thing.
And it's also even there to kind of protect him, you could say, because like if he's only is in situations that like makes where he has absolute like chance of victory, those are the only ones he's gonna try. Otherwise, he's gonna like pull back or even run away. So in that way, like it keeps him from like if say Killua didn't have the needle and maybe he would have tried harder against Netero, like would he have gotten hurt? Or Hisoka. Hisoka's someone who actually could have hurt him, So like by having that needle in his head, it protects him when he goes to the outside world.
The Zoldyck family, they have an interesting dynamic.
No, you could say, And I wanted to bring it up because there's a fucking cheeky ass line later. I don't know if this is a translation or a liberty that just makes sense. Where Illumi says that he specifically says like, "Oh, I hammered that home," like he hammered the needle into fucking Killua's forehead. Like you fucking bitch. So like I said, I like the translation, and that was one of the moments I was like, okay, that's good, you fuckers. I don't even know if that went like when that happened relative to like the release of these volumes. So like, because that's the thing about these older series is that they like I don't even like I said, I don't know when it was released in English. I guess I could check. Nope, it doesn't say on mine, but right, so, but obviously some of the series would have, like, quite a bit would have come out by then, and then it's compounded with Hunter x Hunter's, like, staggered release, so, yeah, I'm not sure, but, it was a good line. But yeah, no, the fight does a lot to establish these characters and how they operate and how they contrast each other, and I said fight, but it's obviously not, and yeah, it's just like a couple chapters of, fun interactions and action and stuff, like, even Netero had to get a bit serious, and even though it's like it's serious, like relatively speaking, and of course it ends with like Killua killing the dudes in a really brutal fashion, which he wasn't lying about the mass murder. He's being very serious there, even if it's presented in a comedic way.
I do think it's also interesting. This is something more that I pick up after having read Yu Yu Hakusho, but like when Gon kicks off his shoes as a way to like extend his range, so he uses it as like a strategic move, but it's also a sort of like a really basic sort of adjustment, similar to some of the stunts that Yusuke would pull in his conflict. So it's a way of it's another one of those like kind of lucky but kind of smart tactics sort of thing. Yeah.
No, it's definitely like a weird, like, how do you think of this, you little idiot? Because it's so, but no, it's fun. And correct me if I'm wrong, anyway, everyone like falls asleep, like or were we done with the game? Or sorry.
Okay, well, when Killua does, dice up the random guys on the airship. That face is so Hiei. Like, this is probably the most Hiei face Killua will make in the manga.
I think, I should have, because I definitely felt like, oh, this is familiar, but for some reason I didn't connect it to Hiei, because I reread it before, or I read it before already, but you're absolutely correct. But no, I wanted to say, because, like, did the anime add something, because with Tonpa, of him being, like, awake the whole night, or... Because he was the one who warned everyone, and maybe I added that scene in my brain, because, like, obviously Netero's like, hey, slow down the ship a little, give these guys more time to rest, because he's a good man. And you get the little panels of the everyone sleeping except for Hisoka and Killua. Tonpa's not there, but for some reason I remember Tonpa like being awake during like
because there is a part where he's like, oh, I scared them so bad, like they're gonna be up all night, and then he sees them and they're asleep, but that's kind of the extent of it.
Okay, I don't know if that was that in the manga. Did I or farther back or?
It was in the manga.
Okay,
it was just a little panel at like the bottom corner of a page.
Okay,
so it would be easy to miss, but it was there.
No, it's funny. Anyway, on to the next phase of the exam. Trick Tower, which is another good one. I mean, I don't think there's anything not good in this stretch of chapters, and there's probably not gonna be anything not good except for maybe some of the iffy art, but we've already talked a lot about that. For the rest of the series, it's a good series. It's very solid, very well done. But anyway, so they get to the top of the tower. They have 3 days to get to the bottom. Immediately, one guy's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna climb," and he fucking dies.
Yeah.
So anyway, they form their group with the 4 of them, and Tonpa, when he finally comes down, they have to play majority rules. And they're already like arguing because Tonpa's being a shit. And then they get their first their match, the 5 versus 5.
Okay, here is where I had actually like. This is another one where like I have notes on this for like I don't know if it was like a script that would. A while back, I was like rewatching this first part, and I think I don't even know if I finished watching the Hunter exam portion, or that might have been where I stopped. But when I did that, I ended up writing some notes about the Trick Tower portion specifically, and how like deception is kind of how it's like the whole Hunter exam arc is about, like deception's a big recurring thing. But in Trick Tower specifically, there were some interesting implementations of it. So like in the first, like when they start doing the 5-on-5 matchups, the first match is Tompa and the guy where Tompa's all like, oh, I'm gonna. It's even funnier. Like the comedic timing of it is even funnier in the manga, where it's like literally on the same page where he's like, "I've got this. I quit."
Yeah. Or especially, let's begin, and I'm done. You've beaten me. Like he's just like bowing down immediately, and everyone's just like, yeah.
But what I thought was interesting. And like each little conflict kind of has something with this, where so like in this match, we know that Tompa's shtick is that like he pretends to be your friend, but actually he's just there to sabotage you. So like that is, that's like his form of deception, and that kind of like defines the way he's defeated here, where he forfeits immediately. Which is like he's acknowledging that he's acknowledging his weakness, and like he's being honest in the way that he loses, because like not only is he like, I can't take this guy, I quit, I'm trying to cost you this, I'm trying to get you out of this exam, I'm trying to lose you a point. So like there's honesty in that mixed with that deception. So like but like him being an antagonist, he costs his team the point. So like there's like pros and cons to his honesty, like mixed in with that deception, whereas like his opponent just tries to, he tries to confront him directly. He's like, I'm gonna fight you, we're gonna fight to the death. So it's like that is a form of honesty, and so he wins the fight. But like there's a degree to which like he also has a deception, like he was going to like crush his throat and make it so that he was going to torture him, but that deception fails because like he isn't able to torture Tompa, because Tompa's more deliberate, like giving up sort of honesty, like in a way. So like,
well,
I don't know. Like,
I guess I would say to sort of maybe explain why that is I would say Tonpa's, because I had never considered any of this, by the way, so I'm just going off. But Tonpa's lie and his honesty sort of mixed together, and where, he's where the other guys really don't. Like, he's like, let's fight, and, you know, I'm going to crush you, but also I'm going to torture you. So it's like, they don't really mix, so that's why but he also wins, so, in a way. But he doesn't get, but it's also kind of a loss in their case, because it doesn't take much time, you know, which is what they're after.
So that's where, like, the honesty gains something for whether you're a protagonist or an antagonist. It kind of, you know, there's a bit of a gain, but also, like, the deception costs them in a way. Like, not like the deception is what loses them the thing, but like the deception is not rewarded. And it's interesting how like it applies to like the antagonist side of things. Whereas like in Gon's match, you know, his opponent tries to cheat by like tampering with the candles, and so he's got like this scheme, like no matter what happens, like he has a contingency. He's going to deceive them.
Yeah,
and
like
he's
you
going
said, trying to be your friend, like, oh, I'll let you choose. But no, it's always rigged. So yeah, like, when you said that, I immediately thought the candles, but go on.
Yes, but then the deception backfires on him because it makes Gon's flame stronger, which allows his honest nature to just run up and just blow out the candle, and so he wins through just that honesty, that very straightforwardness, whereas the deception on the part of the antagonist, it fails. So that's another example where like the honesty is rewarded, the deception, the deception comes up short. So it's a thing where like the mind games in that particular case, you know, like Hunter x Hunter has a lot of mind games, and like the exam is all about mind games, but in this case it's almost like the mind games don't work. And so then transition to Kurapika's match with the false Phantom Troop guy. He's all style over substance. He tries to scare him with like, oh, he's got like this is my kill count. I got 19. I can make it even. And he's got like, you know, the metal arm where he uses it purely for intimidation. He's got the fake troop tattoo, which is purely for intimidation. But then we see when he actually tries to fight, nothing. He's got nothing. He's all style, no substance. Yeah, and like, whereas Kurapika just literally takes him out in one punch, which is very, you know, it's like his honesty and that like his dedication to like, you know, his like pure hatred for the troop. Whereas like, you know, it's where like that emotion just kind of takes over. Whereas before, like on the ship, he didn't want to really like show any sort of like, he didn't want to really lead anything on about like his grudge against the troop. Whereas here it just all comes out.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt during that.
No, that's fine. I'm being a little long-winded with this.
No, I love this, by the way. Like, it's so rare that you get to, like, not only go on a lot, and then you're bringing them great. I've never considered this. This is really good.
I'm also cheating, because I have notes that were, like, formatted for a script.
Right. So, no, that's fine. It's interesting. That's never happened on the Nen Show. Even, like, normally the Nen Show becomes our content, but this is, like, the inverse. And I don't think that's happened before, where this is content you were going to make. So now, but instead you get to talk about this thing you've thought a lot about in depth on the Nen Show, and I think it's great because I'm just sitting here like, this is because I've never considered this, and even reading it just now, like I didn't consider how honesty factored into it. Because of course, like, because going back to the time thing is like, because the bluff guy was taking a lot of time just explaining all of his shit, but once the tattoo was seen, it was over. So.
Yeah, and that's another thing, like, specifically in the manga formatting, I found to be really interesting, because, like, it's, like, more time is being given to, like, the setup, and more time is being given to the bluff than the actual conflicts themselves. Something similar like that happens with Killua's opponent. Like, there are, like, a couple pages where it's like, oh, here's his reputation, here are all the people he's killed, bam, one page, and he's dead.
Yes,
But so yeah, like in the Kurapika fight, like the fake spider tattoo was the direct cause of the guy's downfall. So like his deception was the very reason that Kurapika just completely obliterated him in the way that he did. And so continuing through my notes here, the next fight is Leorio.
I wanted to say I actually wanted to say something
go ahead.
about this specifically because you linked it to me. I'm pretty sure, but to flash back to the actual beginning of the Nen Show, from the beginning of the title of the Nen Show, the series. So Kurapika, actually, we see his eyes, his red. I mean, it's manga; they're black and white eyes, but they're red eyes. I wanted to just point out because you had the Sasuke Kurapika thing that pointed out something, because there's even the interview with that Kishimoto had with Togashi, and Kishimoto says, oh yeah, Sasuke was influenced by Hiei. And I wanted to bring it up because, on the first episode, I was talking about, like, Sasuke must have been influenced by Kurapika, right? Like, it just makes... And what you linked to me was, it was basically explained that, like, no, they're not being... Like, Sasuke isn't being influenced by Kurapika, they're both being influenced by ninja tropes. And when I read that, I was like, duh, because, like... clans being, because that's really the only like basic similarity is like they're both out of vengeance for their clan that was killed, and they have red eyes. Eye things are a ninja trope. Like, in fact, if you go, like, I've read this manga over a decade ago, Basilisk, which I would describe as Romeo and Juliet but ninjas. The Romeo and Juliet characters have crazy eye powers that reminded me of Naruto at the time, but looking back, it's like, oh, it's not that they remind me of Naruto, it's that both of them are harping on ninja tropes from ninja stories that, like, I can't really think of any that, like, so I don't know why Kurapika is specifically drawing from ninja tropes, where with Sasuke, it's pretty fucking obvious why he's drawing from ninja tropes, because he's in the ninja series. But yeah, it's like that's it. That's the big similarity between these characters, and, because Togashi didn't mention, oh yeah, but Kurapika, no, because they're both drawing from the same thing, like... So that's just something that I made that mistake of so long ago. You have the two videos. I don't know. Did you actually mention that in any of your videos? Either of your videos?
What, the ninja tropes?
The ninja tropes, yeah. Or did you get that after the fact?
When did I link you this? Because I don't remember this.
Wait, you had a hold on. It was you. I asked you to link me a bunch of, or you just linked me everything that you had.
Oh, it was probably. I wonder if that was the one that Sasuke Shoto fan linked. Like,
and you never gotcha. Did you never actually read it?
Or if I read it so long ago that I forgot.
Gotcha.
The specifics.
That was. There was more. It was an Imager link.
Was it the thing about, like, how Hiei was actually the inspiration for Sasuke, or
that was one thing I knew from seeing the interview, and that was probably mentioned in that thing. But when I read
if it's an Imgur thing, I'm entirely sure that this is the thing that Sasuke Shoto fan linked me.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. He maybe even made it too. I don't know. But when I read it, what I took from, because I did read it more recently, what I took from it was the ninja tropes, because that's like a thing like that generally people, and clearly, as I'm saying, I'm guilty of this too, forget when it comes to Japanese media is like, there's a long history of like Japanese media, so it's like assuming like everything is like, we're like, again, this is a perfect example of things that are iterating off of the same thing that us as Western viewers aren't going to be as immediately aware of, like, I have had a big old spiel on one of the Monster Hunter streams I do with Vindy about how tokusatsu shows are kind of ignored by AnyTube, even though they're pretty important. And I've been realizing a lot more about how kabuki theater is super influential to a lot of Japanese media. So, even in, again, the anime and manga. So it's like, it goes way, and of course, ninja tropes. Like, I don't even know what medium these stories would have been in. Like, were they theater? Were they like novels? Like, I don't know. Were they earlier anime and manga? Probably before that. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up when Kurapika actually brought his eyes up, because it's one of those like shallow comparisons, and this was the one that we've talked about before on the Nen Show. So I felt I'd put it to bed. So at least here, because it's, and I well, to say something actually about Hunter x Hunter, I do really love the thing about how Kurapika is like, when I see actual spiders, I get really mad. Like, he's such a goof. Like, it's just a really goofy thing. But I mean, it goes to show how deep his like trauma is and his emotions. Like, he's like, oh well, I guess I'm glad that my rage hasn't faded yet. With like a gloomy like.
Very.
Okay. So I had to slow your roll to go on my own roll, but
that's fine. That's fine.
Go back into your own roll. It was good.
Okay.
Let the boulder proceed. Leorio being a pervy jackass.
So the Leorio's, it's all about gambling. So it focuses on like conviction, and the deception is, like, the way I phrased it is the facade of cautiousness. Because as Tompa says, a gambler who focuses on avoiding a loss will never truly win. They're not focusing on like the victory. They're just trying not to lose. And so like Leorio's fear of failing in this case holds him back, and it tips his hand. It shows that So in a way, like, he's deceiving by, like, wait, how did I phrase it? So it's like letting his opponent deceive him into believing that, like, he's in control. Or no. Sorry, I'm misreading my words here. So, like, his opponent in this case, she's able to deceive him into believing that she's in control when in reality they should be on the same playing field. Even in a game like rock, paper, scissors, there's deception and, like, psychology involved, which is able to tip the scales in her favor because he's, like, buying into that. And in a way, so I guess it's more like the conviction that kind of plays into it's like maybe honesty I meant to phrase more as, like, conviction, because in this case, like, her conviction, I don't know if it's the same as quite honesty in this case, but she's, like, so confident that she can win that even when Leorio only had 10 hours to gamble, she gambles 80 of her 90, which I don't know. Yeah, again, I don't know if that's honesty. Maybe conviction and confidence is more like the thing here. But, like, a loss under those circumstances in that case would tip the scales in Leorio's favor. So she's willing to throw everything on the line for really no reason. Like, she didn't have to do that. But she wasn't afraid to lose, and that's maybe perhaps the honesty that she's showing. She's willing to gamble so much because she's that confident in the fact that she will win. And it makes it appear as though, like, she's got Leorio in the palm of his hand, when really it's something that, she didn't act, like, I don't know how do I want to say, like, she is able to play the mind games and appear to be in control when she easily could not, or, like, Leorio easily could have had a more level playing field. But, like, he gets psyched out by her deception in this, or, no, I don't know. This again, like, it's unfinished, so I'm not entirely sure. This is a part of the notes where maybe I could have. I'm reading it back now. I'm like, maybe I could have tweaked some things. But do you kind of get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, well, because the thing I was going to point out was like as regarding the time thing is, like, this is a loss for Leorio. So I'm just trying to think of how it's framed under that.
Well, because, like,
he's, or maybe you said it and I missed it.
Well, because he approaches it from the lens of, like, he's being cautious, but it's not really that he's being cautious. Like, the only reason he has to be cautious is that he fears that he'll lose. He's not confident enough. Like, whereas, like, she is able to gamble everything on anything because she's just that confident, and in that, in a way, is a kind of honesty.
So I was distracted, but okay, I gotcha. I didn't have much to say. Well, because Leorio was maybe a bit too honest with his desires.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's true. Like, he gets. He doesn't even. He just throws his entire team under the bus just to cop a feel because Leorio. Yeah.
Kind of. Well, also, like, I want to say classic Mathwiz, like, talking about everything but the problematic stuff, and me just, like, ripping open that Band-Aid. I did not have anything much to say about this one. What I think the rest of it, really. Like, I think you have way more interesting things to bring to the table here, which is cool.
Well, because what I also noticed is that, like, the 2011 anime, I mean, it expands on which is interesting because, like, the 2011 anime I think of as being the one that, like, blitzes through the material, but actually, like, in the Hunter exam and, like, specifically in, like, this Trick Tower stuff, like, it definitely expands some stuff. Like, the scene with Leorio and I don't remember her name, but, the person he's up against here, like, like, there's more of a scene where like the rock paper scissors battle is, like, really played up. Like, everyone's like, Leorio, throw this. She's going to throw this, and he's like, well, but what if she doesn't throw that? Like, that's where maybe I think the honesty maybe is. It was more like the anime made me feel more that way because, like, there's a point where she's literally like, I'm going to throw this, and psychology and stuff. He's like, but what if she's just saying that to make me throw something that she'll actually throw this? And it's the no, it is described in the manga. It's the disparate choice or whatever it is, where it's like clearly biased answer makes it seem as though, ooh, but what if, I forget how they phrase it. But there's like the thing where it's like, oh, pick this card. So it's like, I don't know.
No, yeah, well, because like I'm there, and she said like just regarding the rock paper scissors that people just have a tendency to throw scissors first, but and I guess the thing is that knowledge brings up the possibility of like rock coming, because they both shoot rock, and then uncertainty happens. So like there's a logic to rock paper scissors basically.
Yeah, so it's like interesting. It takes a simple thing and it makes it really, it adds like the complexity to it. But really, maybe if someone like Gon had approached it from just like the very simple-minded, maybe he would have fared better.
Yeah.
So it's a case where like Leorio buying into the mind games throws him off in this case, whereas like in other, in like the cooking phase, for example, like Kurapika had the joke moment where he tried to like see through all the mind games and like, okay, here finding the clues, but like Leorio in this case almost should have ignored the clues and just gone with his gut. He might have done better. I don't know. Anyways, the final conflict I have framed as the facade of reputation. Because the deception of reputation, whatever I did it. Because Killua's opponent, he's got this, he's very infamous. Leorio knows the guy's name. He's committed all these murders with his bare hands. He's got like a 900-year sentence or something. But like, compare him to Killua, where everyone just assumes that Killua's a normal kid. Nobody even considers that he is like the son of like this family of assassins, which I guess you could read that as like a kind of deception. I'm not entirely. Again, it's an unfinished thing, so I'm not quite sure where the notes would have gone here. But yeah, like Killua doesn't put on airs where he's like, like the guy earlier who's all like, I'm so strong, this is all this. And even then, like the guy who Killua fights here, he has like little moments where he's like, my hands miss the feel of flesh. He's like, I don't care about the exam. He has like all this dialogue, and he's like, this is what I'm gonna do to you, and etc. And then Killua's just like, okay, so the loser dies. It kills him.
Yeah, like Killua doesn't. He's not like lying, but he doesn't. Yeah, like you said, he doesn't put on airs. So it's not that he's being deceptive. He's just not believed.
Yeah, it's just he's very straightforward about it. He just acts.
Right. Like, I mean, yeah, the
it's
killer
not that
isn't like he's not. It's not that no one believes him, but or rather like, but
because it's not like he intentionally deceives people about being like. No one ever asks him if he was the son of a family of assassins. Like, Gon is the only one who actually, like, listened to him and learned that about him. So it's, again, like, I guess the deception is, like, the reputation, because, like, no one suspects Killua to be as strong as he is, because he doesn't have a reputation. And so, like, it's the reputation that is deceiving in this case, because you'd think the guy with the stronger reputation, would be the stronger opponent, but that's not the case here.
Right, it's just the stronger one, and Jonas has this reputation, but it's open, so it's actually like in this. I guess you could say like in a world of killers, who's stronger, the one who no one knows about, or the one who everyone knows about? Because the one who everyone knows about was caught and thrown into prison. He's weaker. Killua's the stronger one. He's the one nobody knows about. Because his family knows what the fuck they're doing. I mean, they're known as killers, but like obviously it's a little different. And of course, Killua's just like, oh hey, I'm gonna borrow this, and he takes out the fucking heart.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
You also get that face he makes right before he just like crushes it.
Where the lips are really defined, and it's like, Jesus Christ, spooky, it's edgy boy.
It's a good it'd be a good reaction face for like memes. Because it's just so, like,
yep.
You want this back? No?
It's mine now. What did you think about how the 2011, like, maybe even when you first watched it, or not knowing about when he took the heart out?
I mean,
and
like,
it is in a bag.
It is, yeah. Oh, yeah, like, it looks less like a heart and it's more, I don't know.
Well, because, like, several people on my server said, they were like, oh, yeah, I thought he turned his skin into a heart, into a bag. And I was like, what?
I mean, like, there's a different sort of playfulness to it. Like, the way the guy falls over and dies, and then he just, like, drops it in his hand. He's like, here you go. I think it gets a similar point across, even if it's, like, executed differently.
Like, oh, you wanted this back? Here you go, you little fucking... I forgot about that part to it. Because obviously it's obviously put in the bag because, like, having a naked, like, beating heart is a little gory for TV, especially with what they were doing at the time, in general with the Hunter exam. But that's that's an interesting change in itself, though, with the putting it in the hand. So I didn't remember that bit.
What I think is also kind of funny, only because I'm not sure if the anime handles it this way, but, like, when they come back to the location after the 50 hours in the room, the guy's still there, like, he's still dead. Like, nobody cleared him off the platform. He's still there.
Yes, he's still just, like, a little stick figure on the yeah. So, I guess here's where I get to talk about a video I actually made briefly, because I did already make the video, because I thought it was interesting how, like, I guess how I framed it in that video was that, like, the main resource in Trick Tower is time. And so I thought it was interesting how they literally spent half an episode of the characters in that room for 50 hours.
Yeah.
Just, like, we had some interactions and some talks and stuff. Where in the manga, it's like the 50 hours passed, the end. And in the 99 anime, there is, like, a little montage at the start of one of the episodes. And I think my big comparison I made was I compared the length of time spent on the series thus far, because Trick Tower was 5 episodes in both the 99 and 2011 adaptation, but my comparison was how, like, the 99 adaptations up to Trick Tower had more episodes in general, where in the 2011 adaptation, it was 5 episodes was more for the series at the time than for 2011 than 5 episodes, what, like, relatively speaking, as, like, from an arc to arc basis, if my point is making sense. It probably made more sense in the video. Mm-hmm. So I just thought it was interesting how they made the audience feel the time more by using more time in an arc that is time sensitive.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting, and I think I had some other points in the video. Like I said, I don't know how the video holds up, but I don't know. I just think it's an interesting way to adapt the series. Because I think time is also more felt in anime in general, because you're kind of, like, you're stuck to how long the anime takes, where with manga, your own reading ability and how fast you read matters with how much time you spent on an individual chapter.
Yeah.
So not that there's no, like, pacing, it's just, it's different. So it was just an interesting thing that I realized when watching the anime, and it turned into a video that you can watch. Subscribe to Craftsdwarf if you somehow haven't. But anyway, I already kind of talked about the last part. Oh yeah, there. Also, I forgot about. There's, like, a random cutaway to Hisoka where, like, a dude wants vengeance on him and Hisoka kills him. That happens, I guess. I didn't have anything to say about it.
Yeah. I don't know if there's much to really take away from it, other than it's just, like, a showcase of Hisoka's strength relative to other hunters, I guess.
Right. And then, of course, I already talked about the last test where they have the multiple choice question, and they find, how it factors into their first, the 2 choice quiz. So yeah, it's neat. Anyway, to the second to last phase, the island badge hunt. I don't know if I don't even think the phases have actual names. Do they?
Yeah, I don't. Other than, like, Trick Tower was very specific. I don't think. Yeah, because, like, the cooking phase, I don't think they had specific names. I feel like, the only thing that I haven't quite had much to say about as far as, like, Trick Tower goes, is, like, there
quite
is
a bit to say.
Well, I mean, like, like, I did have a lot to say, but the reason why it hasn't made, like, a complete fully scripted thing yet is, like, there is definitely the part about the majority rules and how that all factors into things, but I haven't quite connected the dots with that yet. Like, I don't know what broader point to make on it other than what the series already says about it.
You don't have to talk about everything. Like, that's one thing I think Digi's talked about before, where you have this desire to talk about everything in one video, especially about something you care about, which is something like I definitely feel that. Like I just reread Sangatsu and I 100% have had that where it's like, shit, what do I talk about with this? It's a great manga with a great adaptation. How do I talk about it? But I've also kind of moved on from that where like with One Piece and like my upcoming Lucy video, which is drafted. I just need to do the tirade on the tirade first. Like, but I just talk about her character arc. I don't make asides like, oh, but how she's handled with the sex stuff isn't very great. Or like, I just talk about her. So in this case, like, if there's no meaningful thing to bring with the majority of rules, like maybe you don't need to bring it up.
That's true. Though, but then like if I just did my Trick Tower spiel, I'd have like a 2-minute video.
The other thing I was going to suggest is because this is an idea I've had for both Fairy Tail and maybe One Piece. Though with One Piece, one of my smaller ideas might become so I don't know about One Piece. They could become individual, like longer videos. Is do like when I expressed the idea, someone told me about Matthew Matosis because he's done 2 videos now, which are like mega micro videos, where he does like a series of smaller videos in one bigger video, and so do a Hunter x Hunter like a bunch of small little like points, like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but if you do multiple of them, I don't know. So that was an idea I had. I might do it for Fairy Tail and One Piece. I don't know, but just a thing to consider.
Well, yeah, because I feel like again, I feel like there is a bigger idea to be had with the Hunter exam and deception, and like I could tie the Trick Tower. Like I think that's what I would wanted to do was like tie the Trick Tower portion into that, but I'm not.
Trick Tower is definitely like the biggest, like the most interesting because it also factors in honesty into the thing and has like a whole thing about that. So that which is interesting. So yeah.
I think to maybe kind of like clarify what like the issue I had in explaining the Leorio thing. Like when his opponent wagers the 80 hours, he's deceived into like thinking. Well, I mean, like she does it for confidence, but like. If he had won the rock, paper, scissors, he would then be in control, but he let himself be deceived into the thinking that she had total control. Whereas, like, if he had won the rock, paper, scissors game, he would have, she would have been the one with 10 hours. So she could, it's a situation where, like, he could have easily turned the tables, and he didn't because he bought into the deception.
Right. Anyway, we are way off topic. Like now we're talking about our channels and stuff. So, sorry, no, it's my fault too. Or probably my fault primarily. It's always my fault.
No.
Also, it's weird seeing some of the characters, like, because we get all the characters, and especially Ponzu and, who's the other, or Pakul? No, especially, Ponzu looks weird in the, like, there's, like, the big old spread of all the characters.
Yeah.
And, because in the 2011 anime, she looks fucking adorable. Here she's just like, what's wrong with your face?
I don't know if it's just I don't know, her, because like when she shows up later and is like the focal character for her conflict, she looks more normal, she looks more like Ponzu, but it's just like
but for some reason the first time she shows up it's like anyway,
I do think it's also kind of interesting because by this point in this case it's something where like the anime doesn't show all of the characters. Like, there are a couple of mooks in here who never show up. So it's bonus content for the manga, never adapted.
But anyway, I do like, I definitely like how, it feeds into the desire thing, like I mentioned earlier, where everyone has their own target. So, and, like, I did like how, like, there's the whole, like, trinity of, or, like, where, Gon's after Hisoka, Hisoka's after the one dude, and that one dude is after Gon. So and that resulted in a sort of hunting chain where Hisoka's looking for his dude who's following Gon, who's following him, and he doesn't know about Gon, so he doesn't. Yep.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't considered it from that perspective. Like they were kind of linked in that regard.
Yep, and then I don't think anyone else was so like convenient.
No, I do think this is really clever how it's all handled, though. Like Togashi definitely had to. This is a scenario where like you definitely have to plan things out because like wait, where did this character get this tag from? Oh, this character doesn't exist, or like he doesn't have that. Like he very clearly was like, okay, we're gonna figure out who does this, but it's also like it's not always as simple as okay, this character got their target's badge and that was it. Like.
Yeah.
Hanzo gets tricked, so he has to do something else.
Yeah.
Hisoka ends up losing his tag, but is still able to get his 6 points.
Right, because he gets his targeted badge and then 3 others. So it's like that I thought was definitely the most interesting like result, because like you don't need your badge and your target's badge both count for 3. So you could have 6 random badges and still, which is also with 100% within Hisoka's capabilities.
You could fail, but as long as you try, you could still succeed. Shonen spirit.
Shonen, which Hunter x Hunter deconstructs somehow. I don't know. And of course you get going, like you really see like his problem solving skills, because he's like, okay, I have this problem. I need to figure out how to solve this problem, and you see him like gradually like work through it and train, and he figures out like, he go for it when it's going for the bait, and he realizes.
Okay, I guess you could call this. Sorry, I'm cutting you off for something completely unrelated, but I guess you could call this the Zevel Island portion, because that's what they call the island.
Ah, gotcha.
I just never remember that name.
Going One Piece and just naming arcs after the island they take place on. But no, that's yeah. See, I'm not sure if I have anything specific to say about the actual like conflict, because like I like it, and like how all like the plot moments shake out and things organically go from one thing to another, and all the character actions make sense. But as far as like the actual conflict goes, like they have their desires and they go for their desires. They're the badges they're looking for. And there's tricks and deception. Like there
is like a little I don't know, like a visualization that like, so when Gon is trying to catch the bird who's trying to catch the fish, I think it's kind of it's interesting how that kind of plays out, because the fish is like also trying to catch a fly, and so like that's like a micro scale of like what ends up happening, where like Hisoka ends up killing the bird man, I don't remember his name, and then Gon, so like the bird was like the fly, and Hisoka was the fish, and Gon was the bird, and then the guy who shot Gon with the blow dart was
Gon, who was grabbing the grabbing the bird. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. I don't know how that's like thematically relevant, but it's just kind of funny.
No. Well, I guess like there's a thing about maybe being caught up in your desires, where it's like
true, yeah, because like that's a thing where Gon like hyperfixates on trying to take down Hisoka, and so he's not watching his surroundings, and so he's easy pickings. Like the guy could have got him like 7,000 times or whatever he said. Yeah, some ridiculous number, right? I'm trying to think, because like I'm trying to think about how that factors in, because this is like, again, I was like 5 seconds ago I was saying I don't have anything, and now I'm like, oh no, getting consumed by desires. I found the theme. Got to think about how the theme ties to everything. So because I was just trying to think of how, because like I guess to compare to Ponzu and the Snake Charmer is these characters were ones who, again, they got wrapped up in their desires. So I guess like in that case, the reason Gon's sort of like he's not just thinking about his desires, or everyone's like, he's thinking about, like, he even rescues Ponzu. He has no reason to, like, like he even took the badge, but he's still like, so maybe that's it. I don't know. So just trying to think and make the connect, because I don't know, I feel like people like, because there is a lot of other analysis here and or around in general, so people are like, preferably like if you do link something, like try to keep it relevant to the arcs we're talking about. Like, oh, look at this great Chimera Ant arc analysis. I'm probably gonna forget about it by the time we get to Chimera Ant's arc. So or would you say like link it in the episode before the next arc, like maybe. That way it'd be relevant,
or even well, I mean, the last episode we're doing right now is the 13th Hunter election, the chairman election, so which is also going to have our favorite fights and character ranking, so so we'll have time to talk about, so that's like the one arc that we're not going to maybe be able to discuss as much with stuff from the comments, but like it's also a shorter arc in general, so I don't think as much is lost in that. I don't know. We'll see how it should. And like, again, spoilers up to the end of the anime are fine. So do what you want, and we'll respond to it as we go, I guess. But like I said, I'm gonna try not to go through too many analyses of stuff I haven't reread yet. So anyway, and there's also we first get Illumi, who's working with Hisoka. Oh yeah, there was a moment earlier where Hisoka was in contact with something during the first phase, I think, when they were going through the forest, and he had like a little tracker and stuff, so he was presumably working with Illumi at that time. So I forgot to mention that earlier, because we just get a little tease as to, oh, it's Getaraka isn't this weird creepy dude. It's a handsome boy underneath, or at least not a. He's creepy in a different way. His eyes are so weird for some reason.
Yeah.
Especially, I feel like they're bigger in the 2011 anime, which even makes him more alien, I suppose. But maybe I'm misremembering. But yeah, there's some other moments. Oh yeah, we get the one we talked about before already, where Hisoka runs into Leorio and Karapika, and yeah, he's they still have far to go, but they're unripe, and he gets this spooky face. Oh, so yeah, okay, like rereading it, I think what's happening, because he says, "Oh, look what they've done. They've stirred me up." And so I'm guessing, like, yeah, he doesn't want to fight Leorio and Karapika, but he wants to. Because he's definitely like he's hungry for a fight. So I guess I took it as anger, like, or because like, oh, he can't get a fight right now, but maybe it's not anger. It's just like excitement, like intent. Really.
Yeah, but it's kind of like I'm trying to think of like a really mundane sort of analogy. Like, I don't know, like you can't. I don't know. Like it's something like he can't have it now, but like he has to. Like I don't know. I don't fucking know.
I want Halloween to come, but it's only November 17th. Right. So, because for Hisoka, I know I get why you say.
Or maybe it's more Hisoka, like you I don't know. This is dumb comparison, but like you could when you get your Christmas presents from family deliver or whatever, like you could open them before Christmas, or you could wait till the end and open them all together.
True.
And it's like it's a bigger. I don't fucking know.
So it's anticipation, and he's got to let that out by killing something, and he goes after the fish goes after the fly, and the bird goes after the fish, and then he gets Gon gets his badge, and then he gets fucking wrecked immediately. But of course Hisoka actually it's the fish kills Gon.
Yeah,
the analogy. So I guess it's a good thing that didn't happen, and while Gon was training.
So of course now I thought of like another way. Back on the Trick Tower stuff. But so like the way I wanted to frame Tompa's thing was that like the reason why his deception fails him is because like he wants to lose, but by way of that happening, like he ends up passing on to the next phase, so he still continues, and then he gets his ass kicked in the Zevel Island portion, whereas like normally he would have bowed out and not let that happen. So yeah.
Yep. And Leorio and Karapika finally got their like vengeance against him for being such a like drag the entire time.
Yes,
so that was nice.
And this is another such a good moment, but I can't like quite fully it would be better if I explained it more in the context of York New and like just how the relationship between Leorio and Karapika sort of
gotcha.
How things
Evolves.
work. But like here, I've definitely heard it described, like I think it was the Glass Reflection review where he said like, oh, Leorio just happened to win like the friendship lottery or whatever, and that's how he was able to pass the hunter exam. But like Leorio contributes later in non-combat ways that are like important and are like character arc relevant. But I'll wait till York New to actually like sometimes I do the thing where like I talk about something way in advance, even like within the context of arcs, and it's like, oh, we get to that moment, it's like, well, I've already said everything, so I'm trying to wait. I'm doing the Hisoka where it's like I could talk about it now, but if I wait later, it'll have a better payoff.
See, I tried to do that, but then I say, no, I'll just say it anyway. That happens all the fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but sometimes I have things to say later anyway. I was going to say, so we do get the Gon Hisoka moment where, like, Gon doesn't want to be in debt to Hisoka, and, obviously Hisoka kind of forces it on him. Like, I'll take my badge back when you can give me a punch like that, which has a great payoff later when it happens.
Yes.
But I was wondering if you had anything else to say about that moment. Well, I guess because I do, but you go ahead first if you have anything. Because I know you talked about how it's different in the 99 anime, which adds an interesting thing to Gon's character that's not really there in the other versions.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like the Gon Hisoka moment and like what it leads to, even just in this arc before we get, the stuff later with Gon repaying the punch. Okay. No, I'll wait because I had a joke, but I don't know. I'm gonna wait and save it later. So you say what you're gonna say.
Okay. Well, the thing was, I was gonna, cause like one thing Gon said when getting his hunter license is he says that he didn't want to use it until like, cause he got a lot of help there, and he didn't want to use it until his debts were paid back, or something like that. Which is something I completely didn't remember at all. If maybe it was a translation thing, or I don't know. But I just thought, well, because this is definitely one of the, like, yeah, he's very much in debt to Hisoka, and he wants to, pay it back. But also he did get a lot of help from his friends and stuff. So, yeah, like, because it was a team effort.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting way that it's described. Because, like, he's like, I don't want to owe these favors, but it's kind of something he has to come to terms with. Which is also interesting in the context of the ending of the arc, and how it's like, well, it might be sort of unsatisfactory, it might have ended it like anticlimactically, but that's what everyone's got to live with, and they got to it's the actions that come beyond that determine. Mm-hmm. So it's less that, like, for Gon specifically, it's less that, like, oh, I have these I've been this burden on people, like, I have to return these favors. It's like, that doesn't matter, like, you don't have to exist on your own. It's more about, like, moving forward and being able to pay that back. And, for Hisoka, it's less friendly. It's more like, repay that punch. But, yeah.
Right, because that is repayment to Hisoka. And, of course, when that does happen, he's getting a good fight. He's getting a fun fight, which is what he wants.
What I think is also kind of... it's going back earlier to the stuff with Gitaraku and his target. Because what's interesting... maybe Hunter x Hunter really was the deconstruction of Shounen after all, because of this moment. Because, like, they do the thing where the character is like, I want to die fighting. And, a lot of the times it's like, when a character wants to fight, like, their effort is acknowledged. Or, like, even if they go down in defeat, like, the effort is rewarded in some capacity, or it's like, this is honorable, this is a good thing. But, like, in this case, Hisoka doesn't want to fight a dying man. He doesn't care. So, like, he doesn't reward the effort. He's like, I'm not interested in a dying man because you'll die anyway. So that's kind of, he's the antagonist because he doesn't do the shonen ideals, where he doesn't acknowledge the character's willpower, right. And he just...
Well, because I guess a different example would be Crocodile, with the 4 guys who drank the water, where they were sacrificing stuff. So you just made me think of that. But they're both antagonists. So I think the Hisoka moment was a little bit more interesting, because he wants a fight, like, and a dying man isn't going to give him a good fight. So very sad. Anyway, we get Killua getting his badges, where he just completely, like, wrecks these 3 guys, like, because he's way above them, and you also get another great Hanzo gag where he's like, oh, my badge, and then he gets the badge, it's the wrong one, and he just has, like, a big panel where he's on his knees in despair, and it's...
See, and I'm not sure which I find funnier, because in the anime, the 2011 anime kind of adds an extra layer to this gag, where, like, Killua intentionally switches the tags, because, like, he knows Hanzo's tailing him. But, like, the manga doesn't call attention to that, which... That might have been an anime-only thing, in which case, I guess props to them, because, like, that is...
I'm not sure if it's funnier, like, yeah, because it's, like...
Like, it's a different kind of funny. It's a different kind of punchline.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because, right, like, you still get the Hanzo fucking up, but it's, it's also, like, Killua manipulating him in that case.
Right, is it because Killua is being a dick, or is it because, like, he just chose wrong, and... yeah, it's funny.
But yeah, Hanzo's very good.
Right.
And yeah, that's the thing about this arc, is, like, even without considering the thematic stuff, it's just, like, the conflicts are interesting, and the way things resolve is cool. We talked about, this is another sort of like when Killua takes on these 3 guys, it's another one of those, like, not one-on-one fights where, like, the odds are shifted, but it's like the one character is the one who looks strong, and it's like the different odds. So it's like, with Netero, he was the one fighting the 2, but he was the one who came out on top, and for reasons why. With Killua, it's like he's taking on these 3 guys, he beats them all. So it's like, I don't know. There's a moment that comes up later where it's like that's not the case, and it's like the majority who who comes out victorious, but it's different reasons. I don't know. It's just it's interesting seeing conflicts. Not to say that Hunter x Hunter, of course, also does the one-on-one fights, and Hunter x Hunter's not the only series to feature not one-on-one fights. To feature different ways of. But it's just like interesting the way that Togashi is able to incorporate them, and for what purposes the different.
Well, because mentioning one-on-one fights, I thought back to Maze Castle, where it's like you almost have forced one-on-one fights, where like there's no real reason for it to be one-on-one fights except to have one-on-one fights, and it's like, I don't know. So it's interesting to see how he's like thrown that out. I mean, because that's the thing is like at this point he's written one of the most popular series in Jump at the time. And still, I'm pretty sure, I haven't checked sales, but I'm pretty sure Yu Hakusho is still a big deal. Even if
and that's a really interesting thing, because like looking at the backs of these volumes, there's a very specific tagline, like by the creator of Yu Yu Hakusho, which is interesting, because like I am not coming at it from that perspective at all, or at least I wasn't when I first watched Hunter x Hunter, and I guess that's like you could call it maybe even like a generational divide between anime fans, because like depending, Hunter x Hunter is perhaps more like mainstream, more easier to access just because people are weird about 4:3 aspect ratios in classic anime, which is not even necessarily like something I support. I think you should be able to watch any anime, but like Hunter x Hunter nowadays is kind of more in like the cultural
I would
forefront.
I definitely agree that it's exactly
so
where people are just more aware of it. It's more so it is an interesting thinking about it, because this is it's a Hunter x Hunter by the guy who made Yu Hakusho, when nowadays it's like, oh yeah, Yu Hakusho, you mean the thing that the guy did from Hunter x Hunter did first? Like,
so that's kind of interesting that like I can never have that perspective that a lot of people probably have, where like they read Yu Yu Hakusho first and that was the big influence for them, and then they found Hunter x Hunter. And of course, like even here, but that's also important for like the way Togashi is able to do his production, and the fact that he is able to take so many hiatuses, as opposed to Hunter x Hunter just flat out being canceled, because he had the success of Yu Yu Hakusho first, and so he has the reputation. And Hunter x Hunter also does well, so like Jump, even if they wanted to cancel him, like maybe they can't, because, or maybe it's a bad business decision to do that because Hunter x Hunter is so marketable.
Yeah, well, I mean, even if that, like, they could always move it to another magazine if they wanted to cancel, but, like, couldn't. But, I mean, and like, especially after seeing Level E, where you do have this, like, monthly series that, I'm pretty sure it was monthly, that, like, it also had Togashi's most consistent artwork, and so, like, I can't help but wonder if maybe it would be, like, even if it's, I don't know, Togashi, like, again, the way he iterates on Jump, like how he was talking about earlier about how he does all these things that are, like, the result of being like of a Jump manga, but doing it deliberately. It's like, I feel like his series kind of like have to be in Jump at some, like, at least as a creator, like he feels that way. Like maybe it's because he's talked about how like one of the things he likes, and I've linked all the interviews on, I think it was on one of the Yu Yu Hakusho episodes, so I'm probably not going to go out of my way to link them here, but he's talked about how like he likes seeing like looking at fan reactions and seeing like, oh, this did well. Like he likes the sort of meta aspect to it, I guess. Like so it makes sense that he might have a inclination towards the biggest shonen magazine. Even though it wasn't the biggest when Hunter x Hunter started, because this was, remember, we talked about this back on Rave, where this was during the time period after the Golden Trio, but before like the big three and Hunter x Hunter, and forget what else was big in the magazine at the time. Like those really took off in like the 2004. So at this point, I think Weekly Shonen Magazine would have been higher circulation. So I don't know. I don't know the man. I just hear little bits of what he says and think things.
It's kind of interesting that you talked about like the possibility of like going to a monthly or something else. Whereas like, now that we have something like Samurai 8, where Kishimoto is writing a thing but not drawing it, or even like, because like it almost makes me wonder. Like, I wonder what Togashi's relationship is with like his different editors, or like how many different editors has he had over time, and if there's like because like instead of because we have also heard about like Togashi talk about when he was drawing Yu Yu Hakusho, he had like weird things that almost made me think that like maybe he felt bad about like burdening his editors with the workload.
Right. What like?
So that would maybe make me wonder
is
like if that might possibly be a reason why, instead of like switching to a different magazine, doing something kind of like with Kishimoto and it's not Ikemoto, it's the other guy, but I don't remember his name. But whoever's doing the drawing for Samurai 8
artist.
now, yeah, the artist. Which that's a thing that some you have like dual authors or like an author editor, an author
like
artist combination.
Like I've joked about having Mashima as the artist and Togashi as the writer.
Yeah.
Because Mashima's a fucking machine and is literally doing like 2 or 3.5 ongoing things right now, and Togashi's sadly doing nothing. And it's like, what the fuck? But
yeah, that would
the other thing, or
I don't know. It's just another thing that I recently started thinking about. Is like, I wonder why Togashi doesn't maybe take this approach. Like, if he just really prefers to be hands-on himself and be involved in the process. But then again, like he could probably look at storyboards and approve. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because he's talked about the during Yu Yu Hakusho where it's like he relieved his stress by doing everything himself.
Yeah.
So it's like on some level he wants to be able to draw and write everything, but physically he just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's especially with the weekly deadline, like the art was sloppy and stuff. Like, so yeah, very it's it's a whole big thing.
How did we get from Hanzo to more Togashi health problems? I don't know, but we did. Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. I'm Mathwiz. Here's Craftsdwarf.
And I'm rereading the Ponzu snake charmer bit, and there's a part where Gon's like he's like trading the badges, like he's not just thinking about getting his badge, he's thinking about like, oh, here Ponzu, if we trade this for the you can use your sleep gas and put it this, like he's thinking about everyone basically, so he's not being consumed by his desires, which was his failing against Hisoka, because he was like, I got, he wasn't thinking there's someone else out here hunting me, he just didn't think about that at all, as he was focused on his target. And because I do like the moment where after he beat Hisoka, he comes down and he says like, he wants to feel more self-worth by doing and succeeding at something, because he's feeling like shit. Because that was the first time he's really failed in the series, I think. Yeah. Getting punched by Hisoka.
Yeah.
Like, and it was a pretty utter failure. Like, and even though like he did walk away with his badge, and basically everything he needed to win, but like it wasn't what he wanted. So.
Oh yeah, you thought that tangent about Togashi's health problems was just a tangent? No, here's actually the joke I was going to make earlier about how Gon crying on the blimp is a reflection of Togashi's insecurities about the way Yu Yu Hakusho ended, because he wanted to do, because like Gon, he wants to fucking, he doesn't want to owe people, and he feels like, after Hisoka punches him, like he doesn't have worth. And so like that's why he goes to find friends and to like do things, because by doing things and like helping others, and it makes him feel not worthless, because other people don't think that he's worthless. And that's exactly why Togashi made Hunter x Hunter, and that's why the Hunter exam is the sequel to Yu Yu Hakusho, and this breakdown is reflective of Togashi's genuine, I don't know. Like, there was a degree to which, like, I almost felt like maybe that could, but it
as you were saying it, there was a degree to which I was like, wow, she has a point there. But at the same time, like, I don't know. That's interesting to consider, at least.
Like, if I wasn't framing it up to be as jokey, maybe there is something genuine to read into that, but... See, because I do think there is something kind of interesting in the way that Hunter x Hunter does just jump right into this arc the way that it does, and like I doubt that that's what Togashi was going for, but just like something about this scene of like, I don't know, I find it relatable as like as not even as a creator, but just like as a person, like Gon feeling like after he owes Hisoka this thing and he like failed in that way, so he goes for other people to kind of find, he wants to help other people, which in a way is like it's like self-validation through others, because like it was a scenario where like he might not have felt like confident in himself, but the other people, they felt more confident in him than he felt in himself at that moment. So it's kind of like the believe in the me that believes in you sort of
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
And I think that's where I kind of drew the connection to like, oh, this is exactly what Togashi feels about Yu Yu Hakusho.
Right, because like he did feel like shit about ending the series the way he did, but like he like he said, this is selfish of me, but so yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, like it's even to the point where like Gon jumps into it jumps into like a, what is the term for multiple snakes, a horde of, I don't fucking know, but he jumps into like a big crowd of snakes to even do the thing, and he's like, he could die from this, but he's doing it to save his friends, and like he does it, and because it works out, and he's yeah. But yeah, there are little to go back more. This is unrelated, but it is related to the story. So it's like moving away from the tangent on a different tangent that'll tie back to the discussion. Anyways, there are the little moments where like, because like they're okay. So I think this is actually something I probably misrepresented in whatever. I don't remember what specifically the video would have been, but it was something about like the morality of characters, not the morality of Golden Freaks. That's an Alexander video. But you know, like there was a degree to which like the characters do occasionally have like actions of self-interest that, you know, are not the most like morally pure. But at the same time, you do have moments like the guy who gets shot with the arrow, like Gon deliberately moves him away from where he was to like perhaps a safer, you know, he's props him up against a tree or something, someplace where, you know, so he tries to help him out in that way. And so with Ponzu, you know, I think I had once depicted it as like, oh, they just leave an unconscious person in the middle of the forest. That's clearly a morally gray action. But like he specifically leaves Ponzu with Bourbon's badge so that she can be found. So it's not like he just leaves her stranded there. Like he takes the badge, which I guess is more of the like the morally gray, like, you know, he's not being purely selfless. Like he wants his friend to succeed more than this stranger, which, you know, like that's how people be.
Like at least from yes. Well, because I'm again like I keep comparing him to Luffy because they are like within the same archetype, and they're also probably like the best characters in that archetype, at least in my opinion. Because how Luffy operates is he's like, you know, he'll do things if it doesn't hurt him. Like I would think about like on Amazon Lily when he was given the choice between, okay, take a boat and or if you know, or I'll unfreeze the three Amazons, and Luffy took the unfreezing without hesitation because like if he like this was just like his next plan. Like he tried to build a boat, it failed. Then he went to go get a boat from the rich person, whoever lives in the tallest building, and that failed. But like he'd just try again. Like, whereas like human lives are kind of like you can't undo that. So he takes something that maybe set him back a little bit, but it's like relative to, so that's similar to the Ponzu thing where it's like he's focused on his thing, but it's like it doesn't set him back to leave this badge here so that she can be saved. Like if there was no Bourbon badge and like she needed like that, then it might have been a bit more like questionable, like because now it's like, okay, his desires versus where they need this Ponzu badge, or and what happens with the with her if he just leaves her there. And of course, as it turns out, like they were all being followed anyway, as was mentioned, so she would have been fine. But it's still interesting to consider like what would have Gon have done. So I don't know. It's definitely it's interesting because it's neat. It's neat. But we're almost done. I guess there's the moment, or like you said, or I think you alluded to, was Karapika saying, Gon, you're anything but inadequate, where, because Gon's not feeling very good. But, I feel like I had more to say, but, I don't know, we're almost done. We've only been going for 3 hours. So, 2 hours shy of my initial, hyperbolic projection, but, also I'm hungry, so... because it's 1:30 and I have not eaten lunch.
I'm hungry for that Hunter, and I'm kidding.
I'll go have sushi. Anyway, so Netero does his interviews, where where he finds out who's everyone's most interested in and least wanting to fight. With neat little character stuff. Where we even like the ones who like Pockle, he's like kind of like became a hunter, and like who is this guy? Like he's just kind of like because Boldero gets killed, and even Hanzo like had been showing up like routinely, but Pockle is just like, okay, there's this guy here. He was there last phase. He shot the bow and arrow. And then now he's a hunter.
At least he gets a happy ending.
Anyway, let's wait on that one. So yeah, the tournament is pretty interesting because it's definitely like, because we talked about how
it's
in Yu Hakusho, like, every fight was different.
This is why Hunter x Hunter is a deconstruct.
It's inversive because the winner drops out and the loser keeps going.
Well, I mean, it is like legitimately subversive in this case because you expect the one-on-one. Yeah. I mean, like subversions of expectations. I mean, like I meme up because like sometimes it gets overblown, but like Hunter x Hunter does do subversive things sometimes.
Yeah.
Like subversion of expectations is just part of like good storytelling. So to say that like Hunter x Hunter, I don't want to come off as like completely in the opposite direction, that like Hunter x Hunter does nothing subversive.
Right. No, I've said it again, I do meme it up because, again, it's overblown, but it's like, it's legitimately being subversive, and it's also like being interesting in that, because like by subverting the tournament, it actually like stresses it stresses the like the will to win and the, you know, the effort aspect and, you know, willpower in a different way, because like you also get the concession where it's like losing doesn't also, it's literally not the end, where it's like, because you were bringing this up during the Yu Hakusho the Three Kings tournament, where it's like, yeah, losing is not the end, but they also have to wait like a couple of years to try, or a year at least, to try again, where in this case they only have to wait like a few minutes to try again, so it's a little different, but it's still themes. And as for the first fight, like I've already talked about how like it subverts expectations with Hanzo being like the comedy relief, but no, he's actually like he's basically like I mean, relatively speaking, compared to what Hisoka did, like he's like he and Illumi are like the only characters you could even imagine going up against Hisoka in any capacity, even though like I'm pretty sure Hanzo would be outstripped, but he's like, of anyone, and Killua is also like, there's, you know, with what we've seen of these characters, like there's definitely like a vague power ceiling, but we don't know exactly where everyone like plays. Like I still don't think I know how strong like Hanzo really is, you know, especially like later in the series after having learned Nen. Like, did he excel in it? Is he still really strong? Was he surpassed with?
Yeah,
I don't know. I have no idea. So, but no,
the anime never gets far enough to show us if he comes back. So it's like, but he's such a good character. He'd be good to bring back.
Yeah, no, he's definitely like Hanzo, the most underrated character in Hunter x Hunter. Video coming in 5 seconds. It was up a week before we actually uploaded this episode. But anyway, yeah, it's fun to see his friends getting mad about Hanzo destroying Gon. Like, Leora's like, I'm gonna fucking tear that guy apart, and he's like, get in line. Like, good boys. And Killua's just like, you know, he's gone through this shit, so he's just like, whatever. And then Hanzo's like, oh yeah, I would put in all this training, and Killua's like, what, it took you that long to learn this? Like, he's unimpressed.
But he's also, like, very, I mean, he doesn't say any of the things he's thinking, but he's very, like,
right.
aggressive in, like, oh, I'm better than them. Because, like, he's got the insecurity that, like, wait, Gon has more potential than me? What?
Yes, right. Which is a good little detail. Oh, that's right, because that's what he saw from having less chances to become a hunter, you know? Also, there's another joke I forgot about where Hanzo gets kicked in the face, and he's like, I let you get that in, with, like, a bloody nose. And I love how it, like, shapes up, because, you know, like, Hanzo's, like, injuring Gon, trying to force him to give up because he doesn't want to kill him. And like he also talks about how like there's no resentment or hatred in his eyes. He's just like, this is just the thing that's happening. He's fighting, and like they're trying, like he doesn't resent. Like we even saw this back in like chapter 2, where it's like there's not like fighting it is something that can be, its conflict is like kind of natural and expected, and Gon likes conflict. Like he talked like, oh, you're fighting Hisoka, are you terrified or excited? Or I think that was
and it was and he was like a mix of both.
Yes, and then later on we see in the Heavens Arena where he's trembling, like because he's actually about to fight Hisoka, I was kind of mixing those up a bit. So so it makes sense that he wouldn't like reject conflict. Like conflict isn't bad to him, so of course he doesn't feel any like negative feelings. And I love how it resolves, because Gon, he's so greedy, because he's like, okay, let's find a way to fight that it's a proper match that puts on at an even level, but doesn't
So Hanzo's like, let me get this right. I've given up and have given you the win, and you're like, no, you want us to figure out a way together that gives, like, so you can win honestly, even though I've already lost. And he's like, yeah, exactly. It's just like so unbelievably like naive and selfish of Gon to like suggest all this.
That's why I said greedy, because he wants it his way, but. Yes, but it's like, and then of course it ends with the comedic like slapstick like dream on, and they just fucking like knocks him out, and he's like, I lose, I surrender, I knocked him out so he doesn't say no, and it's great. I mean, it's basically all like we get more retroactively and some like cooldown and debate with Illumi, but like it's not the only fight we see, but it's it's good. Oh god. So anyway, Gon wakes up, it's all over, and we have to hear about it retroactively. Gon.
Sorry, I'm looking back through this again, and I just think it's funny because again, it's like the willpower, but Gon is like, yeah, but if you cut off my legs, I'll bleed to death, and then you'll lose. You'll be disqualified. You won't get your license, and we can't have that. He's just like so unfazed that he's like, well, you're not. Hanzo's like, I'll kill you, and he's like, no, you won't, because then you won't get your license.
It's funny, yeah, because Gon's just like, because Hanzo's intimidation doesn't work at all, because Gon's too stupid, but also smart. Gon's so good. But anyway, he has a bit of talk with Satolas where he alludes to Ging, even though which doesn't get mentioned outright until later.
So we're talking about this scene. There's a part here that like really bothers me. There are like 2 or 3 panels where Satolas has like a lip flap there, but he doesn't have a mouth. He talks his mustache is what. So why does he have a mouth? Togashi. You can't. He's throwing his world building in the trash, but by giving the guy who doesn't have a mouth to make it more I don't know if it was just like the scene was he forgot how goofy he had drawn this character, where like the mustache just is the mouth. It's sort of so like, but here's a more serious scene, so he like actually I don't know.
It's just that when he closes his mouth, it looks like he doesn't have a mouth. I need to look up because he's in between the volume pages. He drew like more realistic character version of like little mugs. You posted the ones of all the main 4.
Oh yeah.
Some of them looked really weird, but I'm pretty sure he drew Satolas at one point. And
crap! I think he does have a mouth. Damn. That never translated to the anime, so that.
No, because they kept the simple style, and it would have been weirder. Like it was weird in the manga for you. It would have been weirder in the anime if he just like. I just imagine like a creepy meme where like he photoshopped like a real like realistic toothy like picture mouth on him, and it's just like horrifying, and it's like no, delete it. But it would have looked weird in the anime too.
Yeah, because it would have been like more prominent in the anime, where like they actually have to animate the mustache moving, and so then just be like, here he has a mouth actually. It's like what?
Yeah. So anyway, we flash back. Killua mentions like, hey, there's a lot of ways you could have won that, but Hanzo liked him, and he, so he figured, he didn't want to despise him, and he also didn't want to, hurt him too, because he likes, Gon's a good boy. He does the Shounen thing where he earns comrades and friends by being the good boy.
But it also kind of ties into like how he felt about when Killua told him like, oh, like I have a family of I'm part of a family of assassins, and he's like, oh yeah, my parents, the murder is their profession or whatever, and he's like, both of them. So like he takes it at face value, and so like even when he's being tortured, he's just like, okay, this is happening, and he doesn't like, he doesn't hold any resentment, which is just why like he friendship.
It's a really good like. Because, like, I don't remember... Because Goku was definitely like that, but I don't remember if there was any, like, specific moments where he's, like, him coming into the world as this kid who doesn't like pretensions. I can't think of any specific, like, moments or character beats that happened because of that, compared to, like, Gon and Luffy,
not
where,
quite
like,
in the same way where, like... I don't know if there's really the situations where, like, he's being tortured by someone who hasn't, like, already, like, killed his friends or something.
Right.
Or threatening
like, he
to do
sees
so.
people as, like, well, you're bad. Like, he doesn't... Right, it's not quite, where, like, and of course, like, Luffy had the moment, like, on Romance Dawn, where he's, like, he's the only one who sees things without pretension because he doesn't, it's also ignorance, as it turns out to be later with Crocodile, but I don't know, I did a whole video on Luffy. But yeah, it's a good, like, way to iterate on the archetype by having, because these characters were being written at about the same time, so it's, like, which I think people maybe sometimes forget about Hunter x Hunter, because, like, it aired in 2011, so it's like, oh, it's redefining, it's just, but, like, it was going at the same time as, like, it started a year after One Piece and a year before Naruto, so it's like, I don't know, but anyway, back to the actual tournament, we kind of speed through a lot of the encounters. One thing I don't think we ever find out, because we get, like, Hisoka whispering to Kurapika, which we find out later what that was about, because it leads into York New. Hisoka also whispered something to Bodoro, but Bodoro is dead.
Yeah, we never find out what that was. And I'm guessing it wasn't important.
Yeah. But the fact that it was mentioned made me think, like, the fact that it happened made me think,
it does make you wonder, like, why? Like, he could have just beaten him. But no, like, he whispered something that made him give up. It wasn't the beating that made him give up, but, like, whatever Hisoka said. But
was it just like, I'll torture you worse or something, or I'll kill your family? Was it... I want to know now, because we don't know.
Or what if he just said, like, a goofy meme, and Bodoro's just like, God damn it, this is so cursed, I can't fight him anymore.
Society, and then... yeah, just...
Also, that reminds me, there's a little interaction that I don't remember being in either of the anime adaptations, but, like, where Netero, he, like, sees Bodoro when he's, like, giving out, like, the tournament brackets, and he's like, I like this guy's fashion, because they look similar, and it's funny.
I didn't notice that, that's good. What I was gonna say is, like, going back to, like, Leorio being really competent, is when they were talking about the results afterwards, they mentioned how, like, Leorio is pretty, like, oh yeah, you're outright, just, like, more, like, stronger or more capable, like they just figured that he was going to win against Bodoro, and I thought that was, because, like, Bodoro looks like a serious deal, and Leorio we've seen be, like, a giant goofball, so, I mean, maybe it was because Bodoro got the shit kicked out of him by Hisoka, maybe that was in there, and it slipped my notice, but I just another, like, Leorio's, like, gets, like, oh, you're competent in these ways, it's just he never gets a way to shine on those aspects, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of funny, because they said, like, well, Bodoro has more experience, but Leorio has better combat ability. It's like, really? Are you sure? Leorio?
Right, you don't buy it. But, like, but then, like, at the same time, and again, bringing up the Zoldyck thing later, he's stronger than Kurapika and Gon. Like, he's pushing this second level of door.
I guess like, you could say that it's maybe almost just sort of like a lip service thing, like Togashi not actually backing up the words he's putting in his manga, but maybe there's a point to that. I don't know. We'll find.
Yeah, I don't know. I would give the man some screen time, Togashi. He's on the boat. Oh wait, that's a spoiler. Fuck.
He's on the boat. There's a boat. When did Leorio get into Berserk?
They're off the boat in that no, I get it. That's funny. Why do all the Berserk One Piece is always on the boat and it's still going? I don't know. Something about boats in manga.
I guess that's when the ship sails.
Okay.
Craftsdwarf throwing me out a window as we speak.
So anyway, we get to the... we already kind of talked about it a bit, but Illumi reveals himself to Killua, and, you very much have your path in life. Killua's desires don't matter. The family's desires matter. Offer yourself to the be part of the family. Like, Killua said, like, part of why he runs away is that he wants... now he has a desire. He wants to be friends with Gon. He could do kid stuff, like... play video games like they do later, or chase. Oh my god, that's right. Like hunting like stag beetles and stuff is actually like a thing kids do, and just going out in the wilderness, and they do that in Chimera Aren't. Hunter x Hunter is just a giant story. Themes. I don't know. That's funny. I didn't realize that. How you can. They just play video games and describe an anime badly. Hunter x Hunter. Two kids play video games and hunt bugs in the forest. That's what it is. That's the whole manga. That's terrible, but funny. So anyway, Illumi threatens to kill Gon. And so, like, I guess, how the conflict shakes out is that he's like, oh, if I get a hunter's license, I can kill Gon without repercussions, and, or after the exam, and Killua ultimately bows out and lets Illumi have, like, the license so that he could be free to do whatever he wants, and of course, there's the line I mentioned earlier with the needle that, Illumi hammered into him. There it is. Never go up against a superior opponent. I made sure I hammered that in bold fucking text, like, cheeky motherfuckers. Because it's literal. And we'll talk about that more, because I know that's a controversial moment, but I think it's fine, as I tend to do. But yeah, did you have anything to say about the, Killua, because he kills Bolero and that's about it. I don't think I had anything else to say.
I guess nothing really to comment on at present.
Yeah, we'll have plenty about the next arc is literally about Killua's family, so we'll have plenty to talk about. And of course, Illumi is not done either. So there is kind of a... Hold on, what was it? I wrote a note about it because there's the little exchange where Gon says you're not qualified to be his brother, and Illumi says I wasn't aware that I needed to qualify. Oh, that's right, because Gon says friends don't need to qualify either, but I thought that was weird because so first he said that okay, you do need to qualify to be a brother, but then he says he doesn't right after. I don't. That seems weird to me. Did you pick that up on that, or? Wait,
say that again?
So, Gon says that Illumi isn't qualified to be his brother. Yeah. Then he says friends don't need to qualify either. So he says, well,
yeah, to me, I read it as, brother. Sarcastic. You're not qualified to be his brother in the same way that, Killua's not qualified to have friends. Yeah, because gotcha. Then when Illumi's I wasn't aware I needed to qualify, that's when Gon grabs him by the wrist and he's like, you hypocritical fucking fuck.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Because and now he's saying neither should need to qualify. Okay, that makes sense. Because so basically Gon's that's Gon's point.
Yeah, because he throws Illumi's logic back at him, and when Illumi's like, well, I don't need to qualify, I'm his brother. He's like, you asshole.
Right. So he's friends and brother because Illumi, of course, cares about the familial ties, and Gon's friends, brothers, it doesn't, treat people good, which is, that's Gon good. And then, they have a bit of an argument before they get interrupted. I think we talked about it a little bit, but I like the conversation about like everyone's suspicious of each other and like why they passed, and that it was weird that Hisoka gave up, and then, but you got a free win, so yeah.
I love Kurapika has this like, well, because Pakkel's like, well, your win is suspect because Hisoka whispered a thing and then just quit. Like, was there some sort of arrangement? And then Kurapika is just like, well, if anything, then your victory is, downright unseemly. A win by default. It's just like, the sickest burn, Kurapika. No chill.
Yeah. And then Gon points out how, like since they've all passed, like they're either satisfied or they
are
satisfied that they,
because the big issue was like, oh well, is Gon gonna even accept his victory? But here he's like, we all have to accept what happened, and that's like not his concern, which is like, oh, he learned.
Well, he phrases it in a way, yes, but he phrases it in a way where it says like, satisfied that they can do what it takes to be satisfied. So even if he's not satisfied with his victory, later down the line he thinks he might be,
Yeah.
So, or he's aiming to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's when he says like it. His main concern is that if Killua is only a killer because, in this case, it's more specifically directed at Illumi. With more context later in the series, you could kind of just apply that to all of the Zoldyck family. Like, if they're the ones who made Killua the killer, well then, they got a problem with Gon.
Yes.
Gon is not going to let them have him.
Which is going to be interesting to see play out, both in future arcs we're going to discuss and future arcs that don't exist yet.
Hunter x Hunter is actually just One Piece because found family. There, I solved it. Podcast over.
Nailed it. But anyway, so they get their licenses. They're warned that a lot of hunters lose their license. After they get the license, the hunters are like, oh, but there's a secret test they haven't passed yet.
There's a fucking, like... Okay, so this is funny because it's, like, outdated now, but at the time, like, it's indicative of the times, because, like, there's, like, 2 whole pages talking about, like, cyberspace, and, like...
Yeah, he introduces this whole, like, internet concept, like, world building, exposition. You're right. No, I thought that was what I wrote in my notes. Like, whoa, they introduced this new thing called the internet, because, yeah, this came out in 90, this would have, 98, early 99, maybe, I forget exactly when in the year it started. But, yeah, they have to explain the internet because it is kind of a new thing.
Yeah.
But, it's also 2019 when we're reading it. So I laughed at that,
It's
too.
also something that, like, it definitely wasn't translated into the 2011 anime. I don't remember if it was in the 99 anime or not. But, like, I don't remember seeing this before. So that's why it's like, what? We're taking a little, pausing, put the series on pause to have, like, a public service announcement. It very much feels like that. Like, the way they're talking about, the way they're, like, addressing Gon, like, oh, and you can do this, and this, and that, and everything else. It's like, do you want to do this now? And Gon's just like, I have no idea. Because he's a dummy. And they're talking about, like, oh, a home phone, a landline.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah, with how the, like, yes.
Cell phones, which... That's another interesting change throughout anime. It's just like the technology and the way it's.
Well, it's also funny because like in York New, they get like they have like phones of that time. But I swear, I think in the chairman election, like Leori has like a smartphone because that's how long the series took to actually come out. Like smartphones became a thing in real life, and then they're just like, oh yeah, they were there the whole time. That does make it kind of interesting, though. I mean, like, this is more of, like, a York New thing, but it's topical. Like, the way that the internet is kind of used in that case, it does feel more like underground black markety, because, like, at the time, if it had been, the internet was newer, so it was kind of like the Wild West sort of thing, where it's, like, all this... it's unfamiliar. No one really knew what was going on, and just based on, like, how I've heard people talk about... people who had access to the internet back then, like,
I've heard it more in the context of like old Dragon Ball fans or whatever, and all the different forums and whatever.
Yeah.
So it really was like a totally different thing, and that kind of plays into the atmosphere of the York New arc, which is cool.
Right. But of course, going back to it, like again, this 2011 adaptation probably underplayed this aspect of the new internet, the new and mysterious frontier of the internet.
Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting, but
And with its Hunter license, cyberspace is available to you for free. It's just, it feels very public service announcement like.
Oh man, yeah, and that's about where it ends with them looking up Ging and going, okay, this guy's a big deal, and then it goes, because that's the thing is, it goes right into the Zoldyck arc. So, I mean, we had this with One Piece too, where it's like, oh, the arc's over, but then there's more. There's always a continuation because gotta keep the story going. But yeah, I think I'm about done with things to say for Hunter x Hunter. It was a really good stretch of chapters. There was quite a bit to appreciate. It's good. I feel satisfied having read what is apparently the worst part of the series.
Well, actually, you know, honestly, like for what people probably say is the worst part of the series, they probably point to the next arc, but more is just like it's an unfinished arc. But that's just how it be.
But I like it. Anyway, we'll talk about it next time, though, and more. So next time it's probably going to be a fucking 4-hour episode. This one is close to being Yu Yu Hakusho, but not quite as far as, like, first episodes. So next time we will be reading... Actually, yeah, it's going to be a shortish stretch, but it's still 2 arcs. Chapters 39 to 63. So it's only, like, freaking 24 chapters.
I was going to say...
Like, what happened?
Well, and it's also like a fighting stretch, but maybe Togashi will be able to break the rule and have us talk a lot about fights, give us more to dissect.
Deconstruct Shounen that way, yeah, by getting us to talk about it. No, there'll definitely be some good things to say. I'm actually hopeful for a short episode because they're easier to edit. Pay us money, give me like reason to like support. I don't know. I'm gonna keep doing it, but I like money. I don't know why I said that. I don't know. Thank you for listening.
Leorio, because money, everything's got a price, even the Nen Show Podcast. Time to hide everything behind a paywall and pretend that it was always that way.
Yep.
I don't know.
Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.